Good morning. The City of Southport Board of Aldermen special meeting on the 5th, 2026 is now called to order. Thank you to those in attendance and those watching remotely. Welcome. We'll have our invocation and then it will be followed by the pledge of allegiance. Please stand. Reverend Alderman Lowe Davis could not be here. She's having some urgent issues this morning, so we'll remember her in our invocation day. Pray for her good health, and I'll read a verse from Scripture, and then this will be followed by the pledge of allegiance. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. Use whatever gift you have received. And all of you have gifts, and I appreciate all of you being here for our city, for our citizens. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're here for another day for our workshop. Just to briefly recap, we're here to increase efficiency, promote excellence, while exhibiting budgetary restraints with hopefully lower taxation. Our city budget must provide certain services, some required and some requested by our citizens. Today, we look at public safety, public health, the largest investment of our budget. We look at public works in our electric system. Some of you may be tired. Stayed up to watch the Hurricanes last night. They won in overtime. Incredible game, 1-4-3. And the fans have signs, and one of the signs said, and I had to probably would like this early in the morning. It says, playing the Nevada Knights. So the sign was Knights can't survive the category 5. I thought that was clever, so hopefully we'll be as clever as well. Our police department, Chief Coring's message is evolving needs of our community, we have increased number of visitors. He mentions public safety and quality of life. That's something so important that we've talked about before. And all businesses, all organizations, they see an increase in the summer and in certain times of the year. Whether at a restaurant, you need more waiters. If you're at the hospital, you need more nurses. And so police may need more police officers, may need more firefighters, they need more EMS, may need more public works, need more electricity. So these are the things that you have to think about. And we need our local police department. I don't think anyone can come in, county, state, whatever, to fill that gap. In terms of our fire department, organized in 1893. I mean, what a tradition. And with the 1922 Model T, It's an iconic and valued department. It's a fire district, and that's what I want our citizens to understand. It's just not within the limits of our city. It's a district. So funding has challenges and requires creativity and investment. Maybe change fire fees to a fire tax. Work with the county on this public safety, public health agenda. Our EMS, we've asked the county to look at whether or not it is feasible for them to become involved in the city's emergency services. This will take time to evaluate. It can't happen within a week or a few days. My recommendation is to keep our EMS within the city, but because the county benefits from this, as does Dozier Hospital. So why, as our partners, why can they not contribute to this to decrease the tax burden on the Southport taxpayer? And then we can keep this valued service in our city and be a part of our city. And remember, Southport is unique in so many ways. You know, we have a hospital. We have cross-trained firefighters and EMT and paramedics. They're stationed right here. And our EMS answered over 2,400 calls. The question is whether to relinquish emergency medical services to the county or restructure the financing to lessen the burden on Southport taxpayers while keeping this valued service that has been part of the culture of our city from that first volunteer rescue squad here in Southport. So all options are being discussed. I closed with a discussion yesterday concerning building inspectors performing fire inspections. They're already busy and they are adequately busy doing their job. Plus a fire marshal not only inspects, but they have other credentials. They are firefighters. They can inspect all size buildings. Our building inspectors cannot right now. There are also EMTs that do fire prevention and education and so much more. So let's be champions of budgetary discretion and keep taxation to the lowest number possible. But we must protect vital services and core principles. With that, we'll start with our agenda item D, budget workshop, public works and electric.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Glad to have everybody in for day two. Public Works and Electric up first. Tom Stanley, our Public Works Director, and if you have not met him, our new manager, Tyler Mitchell, is here. So we're happy to have Tyler here for the first time for energy needs. So that's all of my opening remarks. So anything for Public Works, we'll start off with.
Oh, hey, y'all.
Hi.
Okay, I do have questions, and I'm not saying this to make a change, I'm just saying this to understand, not for you, Tyler, this is for Tom.
This is page 57.
Yeah. And, so this under building and ground, I'm just looking at like, salaries going up, it's kind of like 50,000-ish. Or well, not like 30,000 change. And actuals to date for this year are considerably lower. So I don't know what those discrepancies are.
Full disclosure, I don't do salaries. You know, I don't do those numbers in the budget. I just, that's done by,
Okay.
I just do operating costs.
So I believe, Tom, there were mid-year hires this year, right? We filled some positions in building and grounds. Is that? I have to go back and look at the staff.
I'm looking at 26. There was one open in 27 for facilities. Yeah.
So it's accounting for the full staffing level. So what FY 27 proposes is what the full staffing level is in the department plus COLA and merit. So that's the full amount.
Okay.
Certainly as we go through the year, we might be over or under what that line item is.
Sure.
So we can certainly look in the background to make sure that that line is what it needs to be.
Because this question, because when I look at the staffing for buildings and grounds, what I remember in the past is the building and grounds supervisor was part of the crew. and it seems separate from now.
Well, he is part of the crew, he's just titled as supervisor.
Right, so, but then that would mean you have 6 building and grounds people then,
Yes,
I mean,
total, including the supervisor.
right.
Yes.
Right.
I consider myself
Out
part of the
in
crew
the
as director
field.
as well.
But
Yes.
they're out in the field,
Yes,
because I think the department's always 5, that's why, I don't know why.
I don't know where your number's coming from. but
Probably
there
it could be
hasn't
10
been-
years ago.
Because there hasn't been any staffing differences. The title may have changed, but I don't think so, but staffing has always remained the same.
Okay. And can you just tell me, the building and janitorial supervisor, that's the explanation, the facilities maintenance supervisor, that's like going in and fixing small repairs and that kind of thing, is that what that?
Yeah, there were two facilities maintenance workers.
Uh-huh,
And one of them, so you got 2 guys freelancing going around, somebody needs to be held accountable. So one was just title change supervisor, just like there's a, excuse me, just like there's a facility care supervisor. and
Right,
facility-
right.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
right, I was just trying to understand those titles, so I wasn't as familiar with them.
Yes, ma'am.
But, then the only other question then now about streets, I'm trying to understand streets. We've got 5 people for streets. You have a way to, equate the safe, like I know you're using them for putting in, some stormwater repair kinds of things. And, so that you're equating a cost savings, but not, contracting that out, like another way to say it.
Well, no, I don't know your way of saying it. Again, staffing levels have remained the same. Just like the ground supervisor, you have a ground supervisor and 5 grounds men. You have a street supervisor and 4 street supervisor goes out there and works with them. He operates the heavy equipment, he operates the excavator, skid steer as well. There's typically a dump truck driver involved. And then grounds workers. I'm not quite sure which.
Well, I'm just trying to understand, because like a couple of years ago, we still had water and sewer. Weren't some of those street individuals share the water and sewer or not? Was it, we've always
Water and
had?
sewer and streets was all one department. There wasn't a streets department and then the water and sewer department.
Right.
There was water, sewer and streets. So the streets and storm drains, sidewalk, that stuff got deferred, and that's the term I used before, deferred maintenance, because we were so busy doing everything with water and sewer. Now that there's not water and sewer, the deferred maintenance that has taken place is now street maintenance. You guys are installing storm drains, repairing storm drains, doing a paving patch. This year we got a new dump truck that took us 2 years to get, and to build some hot asphalt patches, so it actually looks better. And Mr. Carroll, you noticed that we paved the entire center of South Atlanta.
It looks great.
So, and the bad section of South Paddle or North Haslet first block.
Sure.
We're just not doing the whole thing because that's stuff part of the sewer. But those are the type of things that these guys are doing. And they replace the entire storm drain of East Nass between Atlantic and Baptist Church. So those are things that the street guys are doing. But staffing levels across public works period has remained the same. I'm not asking for anything more. I'm getting more work thrown on to me, but I'm still not asking for anything more.
With the exception of a few transferred to the county with water and sewer.
Yes, there were 3 that went to the county. There was also, when I took him, there was an assistant director. I dissolved that position because I didn't need it. And there was also a 3rd mechanic. He resigned and that position got dissolved as well. So public works department has decreased over the past several years. Hasn't for any increases.
And I think, to the point is, at the streets department, we contracted that out instead. I think those costs would be greater or equal to,
Right.
certainly not having those full costs until we would bid out that project, what that would exactly look like. But I think our only main cost is the materials to do those projects outside of staffing. So I think they're pretty comparable, if not less than what the contractor would be.
It's a better plan.
Right.
We make, appreciate it better for it.
Right.
That's all. I'm
You
just trying
can
to.
subcontract everything out, but
But that's
The
what I'm
cost, I
trying to
mean,
say.
you can
I'm
contract
just
the
trying to
entire
clear
public works
it
out.
Right.
You can contract everything there is to public work, but I don't think you or taxpayers or the people will would be happy about that, because the cost is definitely gonna go. For sure.
You're taking on the cemetery.
Yes, sir.
Joey, where's my line item for the commit, cemetery? I apologize.
It's within building and grounds.
Okay, and I've got a 5300, 5366, or 53066. Cemetery committee, is that what you put that on?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, there was supposed to be 5,000 here in the proposed budget, you got 0.
So that's in the capital fund, so that's where that funding currently is.
Okay.
Within capital, so the 5,000 for cemeteries is there.
Okay,
So that's where that can be. I mean, we can certainly move this line item, but it's immaterial whether it's in this line item or the budget.
there's 5,000 there. There's several projects that they're trying to work on, and I think last year they had 5,000 in money and they spent 4,400, so they really didn't spend the whole, they've been frugal with the money. Somehow I need to extend that to at least $10,000 on the cemetery. Sort of like, in Franklin's, the Franklin Square Park, spending all the money there and not diversifying. So, the committee, they want to acquire software. And some other items, benches, tree survey, sign, boundary surveys, printing brochures to, educate people. Monument care, that's like $50,000. Just in those figures, and I'll get you a copy of this.
Yes, I sent the full one yesterday, so they have that.
So, is there are we talking, can we discuss this amount in this?
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Okay, I would like to at least extend it to $10,000. All right, and then work around whatever we gotta do to pay for it. There's certain things that need to be handled. And we're
Do we
not.
have consent, can we get
Yeah,
consent?
we need to take care of our
If we're
cemetery.
gonna- I think it was a comment made yesterday, if we're gonna increase anything,
Wait,
we need to find
It's kind of-
5,000 where it's coming from.
All right, that's
So
fine.
we're gonna have one, we're gonna take away from someone else.
so we're gonna hold our adjustments to the end, is that what we're gonna do?
That's fine. You can come back after the departments to do that, or if you want to do it at this point, however you want to do it. So it's rather, fine cuts or fund balance it, whatever you want to do in that regard.
Okay,
So the cemetery expenses, like Noah said, are in the capital fund.
yes, sir.
So I mean, that could just come from another increased appropriation of another $5,000 capital fund balance.
They sort of need to know what they can work with. It's sort of like making plans without any idea of what they can and cannot do. There's sort of a no-man's land.
Are you good with it?
Yeah, I mean,
We've got to
thought
find
you
it.
needed more than that.
I probably do. I probably do.
Software,
I mean, the full ask,
I didn't see that. I'm
The
sorry,
full
I
ask.
didn't know.
So,
the full ask for 27 is 92,000 from the committee. So, that includes the software, which they've asked for, which is 11,000. For Old Smithfield, it's 59,000. For Northwood, it's 21,000. So the total ask was 92,350.
So as it stands, I mean, there is another 159,900 available for appropriation in the capital fund. So there is funding available.
But we're also looking at a tax increase, right?
This is capital fund. This is separate from the general fund.
Okay.
Where's the capital fund coming from? Is it
It's on its own. So
It's its own
Yeah.
fund balance.
fund balance from last year?
Yeah, in the
Capital fund balance is separate than general fund balance. It's its own separate fund.
Yeah, I think we need to look at that 150-some thousand globally. Not shooting you down or anything, Mark, but let's compare the needs of the cemetery to stormwater, the parks, if we're gonna capital. So we have to look at where's our priorities for capital.
we need to tighten our accounting on what happens in the cemetery. It's all blending into other accounts, and we really don't know what's happening there in terms of when we reduced our $50,000 contract and put it in his obligation. but there's no accounting, and it's just slid over into his, there's no accounting or adjustment of, the cemetery brought in this much revenue. It cost, we gained this much money, and this is what it all costs every year. We're not really looking at what it truly costs. It's hidden his backside.
Well, we have that, I mean, there's no, once the cemetery contract is cut, which it is, there's no real dollar figure. I mean, you can assign a dollar figure to this guy's hourly rate, but that's gonna be the same regardless. So, and we haven't had a lot of cemetery activity as far as any fundraising or revenue. So we do have those line items as we go forward to, you know, whatever you appropriate to keep track of it better going forward.
So we're not appropriating $50,000 to cut next year,
Right,
right off the top.
right.
So give 5 or 10,000 an adjustment for the cemetery committee to do what it needs to do. We reduced the cost of the budget, or Tom has reduced the cost of the budget.
Right.
And just having some kind of adjustment to help the cemetery. You're saving 50 or 60. Can we give 5 or 10?
And you know, I appreciate the 92,000 figure because that is deferred, to use Tom's words, that's deferred maintenance that's been going on for
Yeah.
decades. And so at the end of the day, you know, I'm not in favor necessarily of spending 92,000 today, obviously. But I do think that we need to make a commitment to doing something here. And not only the 5,000, but I think, and I don't have the documents, but the 11,000 for software, I think we need to facilitate that in order to fundamentally organize it. The last organization was with Wayne way back in the day. It's not even functional as far as I know.
Now, I'll speak as a funeral director again today. It is one of the worst systems I've ever seen between back-end management of this plots and the actual process of somebody's being buried to the actual maintenance of the cemetery that has not been done. So certainly, we should do some things within that regard. So the question more in to your point, Mark, is the 60,000 is a saving to the general fund, so, which is included in my budget with the 1.5 cent tax increase. So we can't necessarily take that 60,000 and move it since that's savings in the budget. So we should come rather in the capital fund balance to then appropriate whatever that dollar amount is to those projects.
All right.
But regardless, we need to take care.
So this is the, I made the software. It can manage it. It's about 60% done. It's free. But Mr. Ashley doesn't necessarily like. And I won't move forward unless somebody commits to buying a name and putting it in the city's possession.
Right.
So there's a software that's already out there that works 75%. That literally works to do everything he wants to do. Already done.
Right.
I don't blame him for questioning me and my ability to build software. I'm amazed by it myself, or surprised by it, let's say. It actually works. You can actually track the locations. You can edit the locations. The public has a portal that they can see where their loved ones are at. It is live. I have a link to it. I haven't pushed that. I haven't made them take it. I've showed them that and they've looked at the 10,000. So if you want to go out and spend 10,000 on something that we're not sure when they come and they establish this account, this data migration thing, $6,000 means that they got to take our documents and put them into their system and make it work. And if it's not formatted correctly, it might cost more. So what is buying the software? Number one, let me back up and say, in the future, we make our own software. Okay, not in the future, right now. They're making their own software. If you want to do something, you tell the LLM to build it and it builds it. If something's wrong, you tell it to fix it. So buying software is not the future.
We got bitten by software in our last year's budget where we trying to transfer into something that didn't work. If I remember correctly, and we had to pay a fee to get out of it.
I know that it sounds crazy, but if you will look and follow up what I'm telling you, Anthropic and all these big companies, the computer is building their software for them. And it's no different computer than what we can do anything you want to build. I build about 12 things. I get bored. But I'm telling you that these things work. And then they will represent exactly what you need without any obligation. And the city needs to learn how to do this. And I have no special skills. I'm a political scientist. I have no special skills in software other than just self-learning. This is something that our employees need to use, and we don't just write a check to get a solution.
Who would be that? Who would be that person that does that? And the employees?
No, I don't know yet.
I
I don't know yet, and that's why in the last year or two, I've always pitched it to Noah and every employee. Have you been using? What are you using? Trying to find out which person really can take that and run it. And what I'm telling you is that it will fix itself, repair itself. You want to add a feature, you tell it to add a feature, and you come back in 5 minutes and it's uploaded and done. It's, so the cemetery is not, the Chinese are not gonna come and change us and adjust where my mom and dad, well, where my daddy was buried, God, my mother, man. But this is not it's not a security thing. And so it's a lot of money for something that's already semi-produced. And if there would be a commitment to it, it could be 100% produced.
Mark, did I hear you say my favorite word is free?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it cost me about $200 to build it.
all right, so
And I paid LLM fees.
How much money are you asking for?
Nothing.
Oh,
For software.
sorry, not for the software, for your committee. I mean.
$10,000.
go on this tangent
But
and waste of
again, that $10,000 really doesn't need to go to software.
Okay,
Okay?
so $10,000 is what you want.
I would like to do $10,000 at least if we can afford it.
Anybody want to decide it? I mean, can we get a consensus and move on?
Yeah, I think we need to fund the cemetery, we need to take care of the cemetery, and then we can move forward.
I'm fine with the $10,000, provided we use Mark's free software and avoid that expense in that $90,000.
I would like.
I'm not willing to put strings on.
Yeah,
it,
it's
so
just,
I don't know what the software is.
So-
No harm meant to you.
I will share it, and you can look at it, and you can see if it functions for you. And I've
It
shared.
doesn't have to function for me.
Yeah.
I trust you, man. I'm not, but at the same time, I'm not giving you money to put strings.
Yeah,
Right.
no, and again, this money I will not touch a single dime of anything I do in the city of Southport.
that wasn't his point, that wasn't his point, he just put the money in and then we'll,
Whatever
your
y'all
committee
choose
can
to
work
use
on
it
it.
for.
There are a ton of things that can be done.
So
They need some kind of.
$10,000 from capital fund
Cemetery.
balance
Please.
without objection.
Yeah.
Hopefully that'll be, I'll actually be proud of it, fight for that.
And let's take care of the cemeteries, as the sacred ground. Talked about that many times, and I think that's so important, what Public Works does, in particular, the roads, the stormwater, so we get 3 stormwater projects. Let's keep doing that, keep Southport from flooding. And we have so many places in our city, Atlantic Avenue, start working on these areas as we move forward. But yes, let's take care of the
So
cemeteries.
Alderman Lowe, who is remote, asked me to explain what the city is responsible for paying for with regards to the cemetery. So the 2 cemeteries that are ours, as far as the general maintenance would be our responsibility. As far as the general, most of the plots are not on our land anymore. It's officially the property of the families, but we have the general care responsibility for the fencing, for, many of the stones that are old that nobody is around anymore. So the general care and maintenance of those cemeteries, the 2 that we own, Tom's guys will oversee as far as mowing, leaves, that kind of thing. So just general care and maintenance of the cemeteries, and that kind of thing is kind of what they're responsible for.
Perhaps the beautification committee address the benches. I think I saw in that budget. That might be something that our project beautification committee could take on in the future. I'd like to get back to Tom here, and if we're done talking about cemeteries.
Thank you. Thank you.
I worked with this guy 5.5 months in 2023, Tom.
Sorry about that.
I never had to worry about Tom overspending his budget. He does an excellent job of managing. Say that from experience and from working with him. I'm pleased They were doubling in the capital fund, repaving from 250 to 500,000. I think that was a priority that was addressed in Noah's, survey online. The streets need to be fixed, and of course, we know, Tom, that the county has got a big project with the sewers to replace them, and we don't want to have to repave the same street twice. So for those particular streets that are going to be getting some new sewer upgrades, we'll just have to be patient with those. Tom does another thing that we talked about in the past. He uses the state convenience contracts. The North Carolina State Department of Administration bids out things already for all the state government and local municipalities and nonprofits to use. So when Tom needs to make a big purchase, and I worked with him on the dump truck, he uses contracts that have already been bid out competitively, either through the North Carolina Department of Administration State Convenience Contract, or the North Carolina Sheriff's Association also has a similar type of program. So I have nothing negative to say about this guy, because I know he's an excellent steward of our resources.
Any other questions for Mr. Steen?
You get that recorded?
All right, electric services. That's on page 73.
I had a question about, I know the electric, substation, the transformer, 2 million. I couldn't find I saw the 1.5, but I didn't see the 500 of it.
So that'll be, you might speak to the lead time, but it's a lead time issue that might be months, if not a whole year, to get the actual transformer. So the other half would be that installation cost. So we will see where we are mid-year, if we can get that transformer in time for this fiscal year. If we will use cash flow in that with the budget amendment to come back with that. Normally we have good cash flow to do that. Is that about right for the lead time?
Yeah, so typically lead time for substation transformers are about 6 months to a year, like you were saying. And we worked with Brunswick, and we're hopefully gonna be able to get it within 6 months. So the 1 million vote ordering it and then engineering, and then from there, seeing where we're at, we'll start working on that. Not, we'll take it up next year.
The city has no control over the fact that it's increasing their rates. I think 7%. I saw the news that they're in the Durham area, they're complaining.
I think they actually were looking for 12 to 15, and then moving forward, the 12%.
Right.
Perpetuity.
Yeah, there is no utilities commission now, so you have a large increase.
So to put that 7%, Tyler and I worked on the fee schedule, the updated fee schedule has those new rates. It's about a penny per kilowatt hour increase the 7% is.
Yeah.
So it's very low.
7%, yes.
7% sounds like a lot, but on the average bill, it's not that much.
Yeah, I think the difference is one penny going from 13 to 14 cents.
For the transformers, have we shared this, need with our state legislators in case they're able to help us out?
We have not.
Um,
Possibility.
Based on some conversations that I've had,
I mean, as far as the transformer cost.
yes, yeah, that might be someone we want to reach out to them and see if there's something that they can help us out with.
Let's get that courthouse money first.
Yeah, that's, certainly the more street bridge and the, flooding that we have there on Creek is priority. And the courthouse, as Robert said, is priority. Several of us have been lobbying our local state officials for some assistance on the two projects. Mark will add a third.
We had talked at one point about figuring out a way to do some redundancy in our electric grid. Obviously not in the budget for this year, but is that something that would come to your attention to begin planning out and looking at that?
So starting this position, the biggest redundancy issue I think was that substation is a single point of failure. And they can't do anything, they can't do any intensive maintenance on the transformer we currently have without taking out the whole city. This transformer will be able to carry the load of the whole city, so we can switch everything over to the new transformer. So you can do routine maintenance on that. And if anything happened, we would have redundancy, we could ship load to that new transformer. The source of feed coming in is owned by Duke Energy. We can't do much about that if the pole went down outside of that, but we do have a mutual aid agreement with Brunswick, has with Duke, to help get things back going sooner.
So these are now going to be, in the past, we talked about having these not in the same location. They're going to be side by side essentially now.
Yes, sir.
I mean, we would have to build a whole new station,
Yeah.
have the land. I mean,
Right.
there's tens of millions of
I
dollars.
know, but
But yes,
I'm
if
just saying
something,
that's part of the
if something was to
conversation.
happen, yes, they're in the same location.
Yeah.
So I'm not an expert in electrical infrastructure, I'll be the first one to admit that. But help me understand, and hopefully the public who's watching today, the organizational structure, operations of our electric fund. As I understand it, we own our own electricity. We purchase it from Electric Cities, a co-op,
That's right.
along with 32 other cities. And then they purchase it from Duke Energy. So Electric Cities is a middleman broker. And then we have BEMC just down the road from us. Have we ever compared Electric Cities to BEMC?
My understanding is we only have legislative authority for Electric City. Electric City is a statutory provided entity to be able to do that. So we couldn't necessarily go directly to BEMC, and they're buying it directly from Duke anyways. So they're getting about the same comparable. We are lower rates than BEMC is. So it would be about the same, but I don't even think we would have that legislative authority to pull out Electric Cities to then go to BEMC or even directly to Duke.
We do have a contract with Electric Cities that lasts how long?
That's right. Through, is it 2040?
I believe so. If we wanted to leave it, you'd have to, I think the timeline,
You petition that you want to leave.
and then it'd be 10 years after that, I believe. 7 to 10.
And as far as BEMC, they are our contractors as far as linemen. We don't, many larger cities that have electric have their own linemen and department like that, but it saves us not having those folks on the payroll. So they are great partners in that aspect of maintenance. They also do our billing, as far as the bills that our residents and businesses receive. So we don't have to have our own billing department. So, the partnership works great. And I think that the residents and businesses are getting a great bang for the buck by not only saving from what Duke would directly cost, but even directly through BEMC, and is able to support the general fund with small transfers.
So I apologize for my ignorance on this. Our expenses match our income.
Right.
That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Because it's a enterprise fund.
Well, I know, but the problem is we have a lot of electric infrastructure costs
Right.
that we should be focused on.
Right.
So why would we do that? Why would we not be putting money back into the fund for future?
So it is always,
Where is,
well, we have to have a zero budget. So
Okay.
we cannot, according to state statute, budget for a surplus or a deficit.
okay.
So that's why it has to be zero.
But what are we putting into that fund?
It varies every year. Joey can look at electric fund balance added in 25. Generally, we always are adding back to that fund balance, but we are heavily investing in the transformer and underground those last few years. So we're not necessarily capturing that as far as putting it in the bank, but we are receiving, we normally do a good job in having fund balance at the end of the year.
So as of today, revenues exceed expenditures by about $800,000. That's with that, we have not received our payment from Brunswick Electric for our May bills. Those May bills have not been paid yet. That's tomorrow. So we should receive that in the next week, and we'll also receive one more payment. Those right now have been in the $600,000 to $800,000 ballpark, with the temperatures rising and the electricity bills going up.
Is that typical, Joey, every year? Is that about what the last 3 or 4 years we've been putting in? Did you have that sort of trend?
I don't have that either. I can get.
You reduce what we're gonna spend on electric on underground.
Right.
Is
Just
that,
because they couldn't do it.
well, that's not true. That's not true. In the past, we reduced it because they couldn't do it, but this year you reduced it even further.
My recommendation includes the 500,000, and we can do more. My thinking was we don't want to fully deplete electrical fund balance. I mean, we would not, if we wanted to add another 500,000, it would not be substantially depleted, but, you know, my thinking is if a hurricane wipes out our infrastructure, we're gonna be in a mess.
Right.
And we don't need to deplete that. So why this coming year, as we work on the transformer project, continue the underground a little bit, so we're not stopping it, but making sure we still have a good amount of fund balance. And what is, do you know a dollar amount that BEMC could do if we wanted to? Is that $1 million? Is that about where they're at with work?
So, yeah, we can do $1 million. We budgeted with the 500,000, so I have projects lined up for, I think, 2 or 3 projects lined up for the next.
Right.
Are they complete after y'all spent whatever was already allocated? You know what I'm saying?
This year,
This past year?
I believe we're finishing up the project. We just have to wait for the invoices to come back to see if there's extra leftover from it, if they came in under budget or on budget.
Part of the way to keep our electric infrastructure from being, damaged by hurricanes is keeping it underground.
Right, for sure.
And we certainly want to do that. It seems like, to me, it seems like it's going slow. I don't know, maybe I'm misjudging.
It's really, over the last 4 or 5 years, we've, seen a lot more activity than we had, but.
They're doing it in my front yard, and they'll dig, and they'll come back a week later. It's interesting, it is interesting the way they work. I can't say it's terrible, I don't have any problem with them, but they come, they go, they come, I don't know if they're doing
Those
it
are all
fast,
subcontractors.
probably.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it is slow, but we
Well, Tom
doubled,
can tell you.
we were historically like 750,000 a year, and then we doubled that number, maybe 4 years ago.
When you came on board.
Yeah. And then BEMC finally said that we can't keep up with it, so we reduced it back down to $1 million or
It
something.
seemed like I saw them for about a month at the intersection of Moore and something.
Yeah, man.
At one intersection.
They're not open cutting anything, and open cutting is a lot quicker, depending on the utilities underground, they're directional drills. So Mark, to your point, they're in the yard 1 week, boring one direction,
Yeah,
they have to pull that boring, and they're boring a 16 to 18 inch hole under the earth.
Yes.
Silencing, using just a feel and a radar grabber. And then they have to pull the pipe back through, then they get that done, then they come back, and then they have to bore another direction.
Yes.
And there's some points where they have to bore in 4 directions, so they may be in the same bore pit 4 different times. So it's a big project. It's not something you blink an eye and get done. Progress is being made, and like I've said before, how much money you guys want to put in to see if work get done faster? It's cut back this year because of the transformer that we need, or we're going to round out that's going to create.
Well, and you can raise rates higher.
Oh, my God.
I mean, there's nothing that says just because Duke is raising at 7%, you could go to 14% and capture that extra money for infrastructure if you
How
want.
How does our rates compare to BEMC? You just said that they're lower.
They're pretty comparable. I mean, Electric City helps us with a comparison and working on those numbers. So, I mean, we always try to, since we cannot budget for a surplus, we don't want to necessarily heavily inflate that to capture that, but.
Electric City came and did a presentation last year,
Right.
didn't they? And we went over our numbers for that at that point, if I remember correctly.
they're very proud about getting a quality service of service and affordable rate. They want us, whenever you go to these conventions, they want you to focus on that rate is as low as anybody else and that they provide it. Plus, good comeback time, when something goes down, they get things back up quickly.
Right.
So we're talking if we went to 14, we'd be talking an average of 2 cents per house.
Right.
Per kilowatt hour.
Correct.
Have you studied our electrical grid and know how much is left to be put underground?
We have a good bit left to go. Yeah, it'll take, we have till 2032, I think, right now, and then, so.
So,
we have a while left.
What is it worth?
You mean the system as a whole?
Yes.
Well, at one time, there was some conversation about, do we want to be in the electric business? And my recommendation is yes, because not only is it supporting lower energy rates for customers, but it's also makes us money. When we get underground done, that's going to be full profit. So that's rather lowering rates, putting it towards infrastructure needs, transferring a little bit we can to the general fund. So I think it's really worth it. Like we're seeing with the loss of the water and sewer fund, we've lost money.
Yep.
So, we lose another source of money. I think it benefits us greatly.
And I also believe that contract prevented it to us selling the system, right?
Ever?
Until if we wanted to sell it, we'd have to get out of the contract, which would be the year.
I think, and I wasn't prepared to talk about this, we're talking about budget, not contracts, but I think we have to state our intention in 2027 that, hey, we're gonna sell the system, just to state it, whether we did or not. And then we could sell it for 5 years.
Right.
So that's how the contract is written. They definitely have it geared for themselves.
I think Noah provided a logical explanation for why we keep our
No,
electric.
don't get rid of it.
So I'm not in favor of it.
I don't like getting rid of things. I am being the devil's advocate
Right.
here to see the other side of it. The gentleman in Bullet Springs talking about building a foundation for his city so that they would have interest every year to do infrastructure. So you sell the electrical grid for $20 million and you put it in a foundation that generates $1 million a year in infrastructure every year. Just the other side of the coin. We're running out of income sources. The ABC money's running out, all these things are starting to dwindle. We might want to have some kind of a foundation to live off of. And that's just, again, from hearing other cities and conversations about how they're going to keep up with all this infrastructure. So, who is our Electricity's representative? It used to be Mr. Fisher. Who is our?
Frank can be our Frank,
Mr. Lake?
Frank,
yeah, it's a complicated last name.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's-
One more question. When we go to Electricities on our electricity, why can't we charge travel to the electrical fund?
You could.
All right, I would like to think about that. Okay,
Yeah,
That way they'll
we do have travel and training within their budget for him.
for him
But we can,
and the.
right, yeah, but we can, we can certainly do that.
Okay,
Aaron, I wanted to touch on, so, the last 3 years, so I said we're right now expecting around 800,000 revenues over expenditures. Last year, it was around 775, year before that was about 1.4 million.
So after this, what have we got in balance?
I believe that was budget message. With this year's planned expenditures, we're paying estimated 3.5 million. And that's with the $1.5 million investment in the projects this year.
So, you could do another 500,000 of underground if you wanted to. Fund balance would still be fine. We could ramp it up to that $1 million level if you wanted to.
I will say, just to keep in consideration that before we have that new transformer, if something were to happen, it would not be a fast and cheap solution to get the city back on quickly, something like one of those transformers. So just keep that in consideration.
Because that would be a percentage, like 3.5 is really not 50% of a budget.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that for me is not that much.
Right.
Truthfully.
Right.
Compared to what we've had
For
in
sure.
years past.
Yeah.
Squirrel lost yesterday.
yes.
Squirrels always lose.
Tyler, how I want to touch on how close we were to the transformer during the snowstorm. Do you have
Yeah,
that?
actually, a good point. I did want to mention that. So the limits for the transformers that we currently have, we're limited from Duke at 2.6 MVA. Duke kind of redlines their equipment. They'll let it go until it burns up because they don't really mind that. They have money to do that. We were at, let's see here, 20.6, we were at 20.5, I believe, during that snowstorm. So we were
Right there.
right there. It's kind of scary to think about, but, yeah, that's why I feel like this, new transformer is imperative.
So, are we pushing, load management at all? I mean, I don't hear much about load management anymore.
That's a topic that we can go into, if you like, about the amount we get out of load management and the amount of money that we spend to operate the load management system.
So we don't benefit from it, correct?
We
We
lose a
cost us.
substantial amount of money, and all the other partners in electric cities are getting out of it. We're one of 2 cities that are in load management program, so they no longer want to pay for the software. So now going forward, it'll be $1,200 a month for us to pay for the software to continue to operate that load management system.
That's amazing.
The moving, the
I
future.
tried my truck on that.
3 or 4 years ago, you go to electric cities and they are pumping load management. They're like,
I don't understand.
y'all go home so we can save this magic hour, it costs us $300,000. And now it is done.
So if I could speak to that, I mean, for large municipalities, it makes more sense. It's more doable. Since we're a smaller municipality and we're going underground, a lot of the communication devices that communicate to load management devices are on poles, they're disappearing. So that equipment goes and then you lose connectivity. So it doesn't really work.
It's not
sometimes.
functioning.
It's not really functioning. And the industry standard now is moving towards a time of use system. It's on the customer's responsibility to put out, advertisements that it's going to be a peak time around this time, so they can option not to use their washer and dryer or heavy use appliances. That's typically what we're going for, kind of a bring around device.
So that would be, if we go that route, then that's an entirely different rate schedule, right? So
They
we
would just not be, it would be the same rate schedule, it would just be you don't get load management.
It's a, you pay for what you use, like, you know, right now, I'm a Brunswick Electric where I live, and I get alerts. Okay, from 4:30 PM to 7:30 PM will be peak check. So I make sure my kids turn off all their devices and lights at that point. You know, they're letting me know, hey, this is gonna be the peak. If you use a lot of electricity, you're gonna pay a higher rate. Right now,
Well, that's what I was.
you know, it's actually, I'm paying for what I use.
It's a
So-
peak to peak notification.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what it is.
And that's
So, but that would be a different, so you'd have peak rate versus off peak, right?
It's no different than it is now. It's the same, it's just load management helps to automatically.
I think I'm paying like 11 or 12. I mean, I did the math on the truck recently. I think I'm paying 11 or 12 cents per kilowatt hour.
So did I hear you correct? You said that only 2 of electricity's co-ops are still on load management?
Yes, sir.
And that's 2 out of 32 or 33?
Yeah, right now, the industry standard, everyone's going to time of use. It's just a simpler system. And we've done it in situations like this where we're spending money and not getting money back at all.
Are we set up to do time use?
So that's a conversation that Brunswick would have with Brunswick Electric. They do our billing, and they have to have meters. I believe over half of our meters are able to communicate while on billing. So we're gonna have a meeting with them. They were piloting the software. They just rolled it out last year. This will be a year in August since they piloted it. They want to get all the kinks out. We're gonna talk with them and see if we can look into transition over to that. That's
Definitely makes sense. We don't
just
want
makes
to lose money.
I'm good with
I think, you know, electricity, I had special meetings with them because they were talking about maybe doing a study to see the usefulness of it. and they looked into it and they did not want to go forward with that. In so many words, so.
Thank you for that work.
Yeah, so the load management sort of,
I'm gonna take
Always-
I'm gonna take advantage of it until I
It
can.
really is that situation, the customer is getting all the benefit, I think, and the city is not. I think I have a Excel sheet here that they made a software just for me to look at it, to plug in numbers to see what amount would work for us. I believe it was, I think we're giving residents about $84 a month on average on their bill. I think we can only do $32 a month. So with that, and then that 1,200 a month.
So is this something that the rate committee needs to talk about, or is this something you're gonna be able
No,
to?
I think we'll bring it back forth. I mean, it's something we will implement on our end if we get to that point. There's also an ordinance that is in place that requires new connections, new bills to be hooked up to load management, so you would have to repeal that.
Okay,
So yeah, we'll work on that and bring back, that conversation.
that'd be great if it could be sooner rather than later, just because then you're building your, fund.
I still don't under, so you do have a peak rate that's different, is that right?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I don't know what it is, but yes, there's a peak rate versus all peak rate.
Like for Oak Island right now, I get the peak notification. The last one was May 17th, I think.
We get it currently in the city, because I know we get it for the thermostats at City Hall, since we installed they installed the smart thermostats, now they get those alerts on our phones for
Yeah.
units there, so it is something already in place, and so.
And it's the same with the city generators that kick on.
Well, I had that when I was doing load management in Southport. Now that I'm not with load management in Southport, I'm not getting that anymore. So I.
Yeah, because the peak, is that,
I have to look into that, the notification side of things, because one, if you go towards it, I would like the notification to go out to everyone, make it easy to get.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
So how would that affect the city's generator, you know, the one at City Hall? Because you're essentially trying to do
Well,
management,
so
right?
Yes, so I've since removed that from the schedule, so it'll come off of that, so it won't affect that anymore.
So how will you be utilizing that generator just in the case of?
Just in case we need it.
It's power.
Yeah, general, general usage.
So it's no longer being part of the flood management. Okay, well, that solves a whole
It does.
fish problem.
Yeah.
Good job. Awesome. Awesome. Well,
But it
thank
does
you for
save a lot
this.
of money when it was used.
Oh, right,
It saves
right.
$15,000 a year when it's used.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, you
No, no,
got to
no, I
take good
hear
with
you.
bad times.
Right.
Everybody's lights at City Hall go off at 4 o'clock.
I don't turn on all.
Anything else?
Oh, God, that's a great thing. I didn't even know.
Welcome, Tom. Appreciate you. And
I hope so as well.
yeah, we take it for granted, you know, cut off the switches, there it is, but when we don't have it, then that's the problem. So thank you for all your work, keep the lights on, and Mr. Stanley, John, thank you for all you and your staff do. My goodness, what two huge jobs that gentlemen have, so thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That's not.
Not rushing
Minute to noon.
Right, you're stuck, right?
All right, we're doing our. These next.
Good morning.
Happy to have, Chief Todd and Major Burger come up.
That's page 42 board, and those are the following. Worship is not the day.
Let's go to that.
Load management,
We don't have any
transformers, and, pleasure cities.
Just personnel management, no other management, sir.
A little more straightforward, right?
Right, I hope so. We're gonna stick with the public. Everybody ready? So while you're turning, I know that you were all, I know Noah spoke last week, and I know that you all received this update, similar to what you Drew did. I know he delivered that on the meeting. And the manager did go over the request for personnel. So I did prepare just a blanket statement. I just want to set the mood. So kind of, because you know, I know coming before you asking for 4 people, that's a big ask. And, you'll just follow along. I just want to go over this briefly. So the city of Southport, some of this you've heard before. So, we're approximately 4,500 full-time residents. The daily reality seems far beyond that number. On any given day, Southport welcomes more than 20,000 visitors, who shop and attend events, access our healthcare services, travel through our transportation gateways, and enjoy everything our community has to offer. Southport serves Brunswick County's downtown. We hear that a lot. We're home to Dover Hospital, Southport Elementary School, the ADM plant, it's just outside that people travel through, and the gateways to both Baldwin Island and North Carolina Fort Fisher ferry transportation systems. Our city has gained state and national attention through numerous film productions, popular festivals, and our tourist attractions, and continue to draw visitors year round. In September, our community also experienced an event that brought national attention for a very different reason, the mass shooting that we're all aware of in American Fish Company. While the response by the officers and partner agencies demonstrated exceptional professionalism and teamwork, the incident highlighted the reality that significant public safety events can occur in our community regardless of our size. These factors collectively placed increasing demands on the Southport Police Department. Calls for service, special events, traffic management, investigations, community engagement, and proactive policing efforts continue to grow. The strain on our personnel is not measured solely by resident population, but by the volume of people, businesses, critical infrastructure, and community assets we are responsible for protecting every day. It is the mission of Southport Police Department to safeguard the lives and property of residents and visitors, protect individuals from becoming victims of crime, and uphold the constitutional rights of all people through professional, ethical, and community-oriented policing. Through trust, relationships, professional services, modern training, equipment, and steadfast commitment to integrity and accountability, we strive to protect the quality of life and make Southport such a special place. To continue fulfilling this mission effectively and safely, we must ensure that staffing levels keep pace with the demands facing our community. The addition of officers requested in this budget are not about preparing for future growth alone. They are about meeting the public safety needs that exist today. So I'm respectfully asking for the 4 police officers. Just want to touch a little bit on the workforce analysis and staffing. I looked at this to generate these numbers. The request for additional police officers is based upon a comprehensive workforce analysis of the Southport Police Department's operations, workload demands, deployment patterns, and response times. This analysis examined computer-aided dispatch data, call volume trends, response metrics, officer availability, and service demands throughout the year. As a full-time law enforcement agency, the Southport Police Department responds to a wide variety of calls for service, including traffic crashes, domestic service, alarm activations, property crimes, vehicle lockouts, welfare checks, adult protective services investigations, suspicious activity, civil disputes, and numerous other public safety concerns, to name a few. The complexity and unpredictability of these calls require adequate staffing levels to ensure officer safety, effective response, and quality service to our community. During the review period, Southport Police Department handled 12,195 calls for service. Of those calls, 11,069 occurred within the city limits of Southport, our primary response area. Additionally, Southport officers responded to 1,126 calls to assist our neighboring law enforcement agencies, to include the town of Bowling Spring Lakes, the town of Oak Island, and the Brunswick County Sheriff's Office. Officers also responded to 1,031 incidents in support of fire and EMS response. Call volume analysis revealed that service demands remain consistent throughout the day and night. For example, officers responded to, and this is the total number of calls throughout this last year, 397 calls in the 1 o'clock or the 1 a.m. hour, roughly 452 calls during a 3 p.m. hour, and 458 calls during a 10 p.m. hour. These numbers demonstrate that police services are required around the clock, and that the workload is not limited to any traditional daytime, nighttime, or seasonal hours. To evaluate deployment efficiency and response times, the department's 4 square mile service area is divided into 2 patrol zones. We did this about a year ago, back when we had the traffic congestion problem. So we divided our response area into what we call 2 beats or 2 zones. Beat 1 encompasses
the area from River Road and North House Street intersection all the way down here to Waterfront Bay, back over the yacht basin and over, including our downtown and waterfront district. B2 extends from River Road and North House Street intersection to the city's furthest annexed properties, including Southport Crossings, Plaza, River Mist, and the commercial corridor along the Southport Supply Road that relies inside our city districts. Current response time data shows that overall active response times are 4 minutes and 12 seconds. When examined by patrol zones, B1 averages a 2 minute, 50-second response time, while B2 averages a 6 minute and 1 second response time. These figures highlight the challenges associated with geographical issues, traffic congestion, and increasing development within our jurisdiction. More concerning is the increasing occurrences of delayed responses when officers are already committed to active calls, when they're having to back each other up on calls, because a lot of these calls require a 2-officer response. During these periods, we're seeing pending and staff calls sometimes have a 16 to 18-minute response time before officers arrive. That's even if we ask for another agency to assist us. These delays have become more common when incidents requiring multiple officers occur simultaneously or when call volume surge unexpectedly. The department continually evaluates call volume trends, peak demand periods, officer deployment schedules, and staffing allocations to maximize efficiency. Currently, staffing strategies already include flex scheduling assignments that utilize both patrol sergeants and various schedules to provide coverage during identified peak periods. However, unavoidable factors such as vacations, training requirements, court appearances, employee leave, emergency call-outs, and special events regularly reduce the availability of staffing levels at this time. To maintain minimum staffing requirements, command staff and administrative personnel routinely step away from their primary responsibilities to provide patrol coverage. While this approach has allowed the department to continue meeting operational needs, it is not a sustainable long-term solution. Based upon the data collected and analysis, the request for additional police officers does not desire to expand services beyond our current needs. It's a demonstrated operational necessity. Additional officers will reduce response times, decrease mandatory overtime, lessen employment burnout, improve officer wellness, enhance customer service, strengthen proactive policing efforts, and improve overall operational effectiveness. Most importantly, additional staffing will improve officer safety and our public safety. It will ensure that officers are available when citizens call for assistance, reduce the likelihood of extended response times, and allow the Southport Police Department to continue fulfilling its mission of protecting the residents, business, and visitors who rely on us every day. So again, the request is not a loan, it's a need driven by workload, service demands, and the responsibility we have to provide professional and effective law enforcement services to our community. So again, I just wanted to overlay that. I know that's a lot, but I know coming before you is a big ask for people, and I know I respect Alderman Gross, he's new to the board. I sat on the board for 8 years myself, so now I know what it's like to sit on the other side. So when I come and ask for things, I want to make sure that it's not just something, it's not fluff, it's not just, hey, we want bells and whistles, it's really what we need. The past two or three city managers I spoke with told me I could not ask for personnel. So I know last year when I presented the budget, I know Alderman Carroll and Alderman Monstead, you pointed out to me, why are you not asking for personnel? Because they were seeing our increase in call volume. We had a stronger part-time workforce at that time. We had 3 part-time officers that were carrying a heavy load, so I was maximizing that, and 2 of those folks are fully retired now, and 1 we actually brought on full-time. So we are seeing a little bit of a void and trying to keep up with the demands and the heavy call volume. I also appreciate Noah Salvo, our city manager, sent out the survey, and I did take time to read through that, and y'all read through it. I think it was 144 some pages. There were several mentions of needing to see more police presence, specifically like in the downtown and business districts. They would like to see more enforcement directed at traffic incidents. Specific sums pointed out an increase. They feel like we have in drunk driving incidents in Southport and marijuana. There's a lot of people saying they smell marijuana all over Southport. They're riding around. So again, I appreciate you doing that, Noah, because it does give us an effect. And there were some on there that said, hey, maybe we need to give this over and let somebody else do it. And I understand that. I've heard I don't try to follow a lot of stuff on Facebook, on social media. I appreciate Facebook and I use it myself, but as far as some of the platforms that are on there, I try to avoid that because I feel like I'm going to be responsible to you all, and certainly responsible and respect our citizens. But somebody mentioned up here earlier, keyboard warriors and that kind of thing. I don't really like to use those kinds of terms to respond on social media, but I did want to let you know we do a workforce analysis. We look at these things, and it's just something I feel like we need to do at this point. to try to move our agency forward, in a positive light and get some safety in place. So at that time, at this point, I will certainly entertain any questions that y'all have, and thank you for listening.
It's time, Chief, and I appreciate the effort that you put to demonstrate why you need this, but like I said, from the hospitals, the restaurants, the businesses, they're all hiring their people. In fact, if you had to use part-time people, now it's time to transition to full-time officers. You should not be making calls separately, going on these calls. Two should be at each of these calls, and this way things are going down. You need that for safety for those that are in need and also for yourselves. So I fully support whatever you need in that regard, at least from my point of view, because I understand it. Because with the hospital, if you don't have the adequate number of nurses, things don't go up. So you need that. It's the same with police officers. You have a lot of area to cover, and when you have, it's not just the population we have here, it's the people that are here, 20,000 a day. So at all times of day and night, it's not like you are real quiet at night, and then it's busy during the day. It's busy all the time.
Well,
It's busy all year long.
You know, I was born and raised, and a lot of people think they roll up the sidewalks at 8 o'clock, everything goes to sleep, but we can't forget, and ever since, this will be November, already 8 years I've been a police chief, and if you're real to take back or whatever this is called, and I've always cautioned our board that we never say that it won't happen here, it's just when, and unfortunately, the horrible night of September 27th, this is how we win. So it has happened, and so that again just shows me, I was looking back over trends. The police department has basically been using the two people working on a shift, and a power shift. Our sergeants right now, we only have 2 patrol sergeants. Patrol, of course, is our largest. We have 10 police officers. We have 2 sergeants, and they have been working a power shift, because we try to look at numbers as, summertime, we used to have a slow period here. During the summertime, we got 4 or 5 months where it did kind of go to sleep. And I was like, thank goodness. And then summer would hit us, and Rebecca, I know you were born and raised here, you know how that goes. And so, but when I started looking at the analysis, it shocked me to see I was able to pull last year, all of those 12,000 and some calls, and each hour it broke down how busy, how many numbers of calls, and we really don't have a slow time like we used to anymore. And we try to utilize, I was talking with Sheriff Chisholm, he visited me a few weeks ago, and we were talking, and I've heard him talk, and he's talking about his analogy of you can't stretch a worker down so much before it breaks. He too is struggling. We have 14 police departments, let's say, in our sheriff's office in our county, and we meet every 2 months, and everybody is struggling to keep personnel. Nobody wants to be a police officer anymore. It's a tough job. So we try to look for things. 3 years ago, the board was asking us to try to look at measures to retain our employees, how to do that. Retention. Week before last, I went to the FBI Academy. I got chosen out of North Carolina to go there. There was 53 police chiefs from across the country, and we spent a 4-hour block talking about. And all of these police departments that went were under 50 people. That's what it was focused on. The FBI focused on our because the majority of police departments in the United States are small departments, 50 or less. So they were talking about trends. They said, raise your hand if you are working power shifts and you're working, you're trying to target peak hours, and the majority of us in there are trying to do that because they're smaller and financial constraints, and they right away said you need to stop doing that. That's old policing. Using the per capita, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, I'm a member of that, as well as North Carolina, and they say for every X amount, every 1,000 residents, there should be 2.6 officers for that. They said that if that's old policing, your needs. If you are trying to flex shifts to have 3 or 4 on, you need to put 3 on all the time. You need to put 4 on all the time, or whatever that is. So it opened my eyes, and I was mass shooting. We were working, again, we had 2 officers, just so you know, we have, the way our structure is set up, that we have officers 2 on day shift and 2 on night shift. They're permanent days and nights. They chose that. It's very helpful in many ways. Our citizens know officers by name. They'll call the office, asking for them. They see them every day. So we have 2 on days, 2 on nights. The sergeant will come out and work a flex shift. And then we have another flex officer that's available to flex and help cover the peak times. There's a lot to be said about that, the way that we're doing that. But I learned a lot the night of the shooting. We had 2 officers working. The sergeant had come out earlier in the day because of personnel matter. So he had just started home about 9 o'clock. Everything was fine. Everybody's working. Well, he got halfway home. One of our officers had stopped a driver and ended up being a DUI arrest. So that officer was on the way to jail, and then we had the mass shooter. I had one officer that was working that night. Well, not one officer working that night, but three. But the way the cards fell, she responded down, Bowling Spring Lakes came straight down, and the county and everybody else, some of y'all saw that, but I say that to say that really opened my eyes up to, we need to try to increase our workforce. The call volume is here, the numbers showing. We had a lot of calls late at night. Somebody said, hey, chief, 11 o'clock, what are y'all doing? I don't see any traffic. But we had an officer that was injured in a chase recently. We just made an arrest this week. I'm happy to say that was almost a year-old case. The motorcycle chase with Officer Reserve. We just made an arrest on that through DNA match, so that'll be in the news next week. So that gentleman has been arrested and charged. But that was 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening. We had an officer that had to fight a suicidal subject one night again, 11 o'clock at night. The call volume is everywhere, so just paint a picture, because we feel like it's a sleepy little town, but there's a lot going on, and we're very busy, so. I'll be quiet, I can wrangle questions, I apologize.
Ty, could you expand on what the department's doing to combat, drug use in the city? Because I'm getting a lot of complaints from, residents about, you just drive down certain streets, I won't name them,
Yes,
and you can smell marijuana.
yes, and this major, yes, he does all our operations, I got him here, he can help you with that, Mr. Rose.
That's a good question, and I'm very compassionate about, the details of drug and narcotics and trying to capture, and actually, there is some revenue that can be generated if you do, get enough drug confiscated. So there are some taxations there that can be, increased revenue. But, we have recently sent, a couple officers. We have one officer that just went to a highway interdiction class. It's a 2-week course. We were able to get him through that. We also have 2 other officers that are interested in going to basic narcotics. So we really do need some more manpower, because it is very difficult for just one officer working as on to stop a car, to actually do what they need to do, as far as further investigation for narcotics. You don't want to do that by yourself. That's primary A. You should not search a car with one person. So you look at that, and then if you get another call, then he's gonna have to cut ties there and go answer the call, because, we're dedicated to the citizens, first and foremost. I know in my career, I've had to, stop a car, got some dope, maybe. Basically had to cut them loose, because we had a shots fired call at the other end of the county, had to go that way. So that happens, but we have more manpower needed there. The safety, I can't emphasize so much on the safety of officers. I started my career in 2007, in Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department. That was the year 2 officers, Shelton Clark, got killed. You did not respond to a call in Charlotte unless your partner was arriving on scene with you. So we need to get ahead of time.
Yeah.
And we need to get that. I've seen that from the day I started here, which we have increased the police. Back then, I know we had a hard time getting people because of the insurance. We had a couple people leave because the family insurance was very expensive. Thankfully, you guys kind of straightened that out, which has helped tremendously to pull some people our way. So I appreciate that.
And we also do what we call saturation patrols. If we have complaints in areas, like I know, we get calls about heavy speeding on different streets, so we do address the drug issues and stuff like that, what we call saturation patrol buttons. So that's what we'll focus folks in those areas to try to see, what's going on.
Are you seeing any trends in terms of DWI arrests in Southport? I mean, I know we obviously have a lot of bars in Southport,
Yes.
and I'm not suggesting that you camp out in front of one of my favorite bars. I'm not being that, but are you seeing any
I
trends?
think those trends are everywhere. It's not necessarily a trend. I mean, we've had DWI arrests from someone traveling maybe from Oak Island into our city, and they got stopped on the way in. So it's not, you can't just pinpoint it to Southport.
Right.
It occurs Southport bars there.
Yeah.
And we are seeing, it's an uptick a little bit, and just like I get asked commonly about like drugs in the town, and some of the trends we see are day trippers. A lot of folks coming into town and experiencing gambling and following,
Speaking on that, technology shows that, just this first quarter, we've had 1.4 million visitors come and go from Southport in just the first quarter, which is 4.1% more than last year. So, 1.4 million people
We have made it, we're on the map, that's for sure, so.
Yeah.
Obviously, city's got a lot of challenges this year. None is as bad. We lost close to $600,000 in revenues from new power and from the ABC store. So Noah's trying to do the best he can with the resources that he has. Would 2 officers help you if we could get you 2 this year and 2 next year?
I mean, I think yes to that. I mean, and I did talk with Noah. I was working with the sheriff's office several years back. We went before, I say I was part of the command staff, of course, the sheriff and the chief deputy approached that, but we worked together to bring on 20 deputies because we were so far behind and they staggered in the end. And I talked with our manager about that. I was part of that process and they hired 2 at the start, at the front of the budget, hired 2 in the latter part of the year, so it overlapped. And I think anything we can do definitely to start progress and get these folks in would be great.
As a former law enforcement officer myself, adult probation parole, I certainly back the blue, as you know. We want to get you the resources that you need.
Yes.
But we also have to balance it against some of our fiscal challenges with revenues.
Yeah, and y'all have always.
Because we can certainly
Yes,
help
sir.
with this year.
And I bragged on our agency a little bit when I was at the FBI Academy. They were asking about ways that we are trying to retain employees. That officer wellness and retention is a hot topic across the country. And some of the measures that y'all have taken with helping with insurance benefits, helping with the holidays and things that y'all have been very beneficial. So I appreciate that. They were several shocked when they were when I gave our example. And I know that's hard too. Again, I sat on this side, y'all's side of the table, and I know every year insurance was like the main thing we always had to digest. But I just wanted to come back from being there to say that the South Fork was very highly regarded because of that our elected officials are looking at the workforce and trying to retain it. So
We use bicycle patrols downtown during the summer.
we do. We've got some bikes that are outdated. I actually got a quote, just last week. We're trying to look at updating our bike patrol. We do a lot of foot patrols with the bikes that we have are older and they're kind of not, I think I've gotten all I can get out of them, I guess. So we're going to look at buying some.
Obviously, visibility helps prevent crime, just
Yes.
having bikes, having a vacant car sitting up.
Right, we,
Statistics show.
yes, and we do that sometimes, especially during our holiday seasons, we'll lose some cars around. Those are all preventative measures. And, so definitely, we try to be very community oriented. Our vehicles, when we cycle them out, you'll notice I did not tint the windows because people before, a lot of law enforcement agencies tint windows because it does keep the vehicle cool. Of course, you got a dog and that kind of thing, but I had citizens say, we can't see the officers in there, and I encourage them to try to roll their windows down, but I'm not everywhere, so, but we did tint the windows because we want people to see, folks. I'm very, very community oriented. That's one thing I love about Southwood. When I came there in 2018, and of course, we know the negative or the dark cloud that's over the police department at the time, that we had an agency, an outside agency review our police department. The city hired a firm to investigate while they were on administrative leave, and then of course the FBI and the SBI. So when I came in and was hired, I had a 45, 60-page document, and several things were outlined, and community policing is very important. So we try to we want folks to know the officers and to be approachable. So the first time you see us is not, unfortunately, if you ran a 4-way stop sign, we stop you, or your house has been broken into. We really try to step up behind those markers. Me too, so, but yes, but thank you, Mr.
Is that a typo in the budget book where it says we're going from 17 to 22?
So that is correct. There is one
previous.
There is one that was on position that was budgeted for, but was not on staff, on
Yes, sir.
leave at that time. So the budget has always been there, but the number of
Okay,
personnel.
So full set currently is 18.
We are, yeah, I know that Mr. Gross is 18, including us, so we're 18. One of those positions is our APS officer, and she is in her own workforce. I mean, we keep her separate than our admin. So, there's 16 officers working the road, including myself and the assistant chief, and then we have our APS officer and our admin.
And I hope we can continue to make progress towards getting y'all out of that sardine can that you're in
I
down
really
there.
appreciate that.
I've been in there, got a tour
Yes, sir.
from Allison, and it
Yes.
is a sardine can. And we're
It is.
paying, what, $60,000 a year to rent
Yes, sir, and I
it?
think they went up this year, unfortunately, if I'm not mistaken, a little bit. I think the
It's $5,800 a month, and the HOA per se, our share of the maintenance is going
all
on.
of y'all's voices in Raleigh. I've been talking to Senator Miller or Senator Reagan, and I say it's a deal with Charlie, I joke around, so I try to be professional about talking, but I too have been talking with him and trying to rally support, so I appreciate all of you for doing that.
Have several of us.
So the proposal as it is here with the 4 officers, it would be adding 2 and then in 6 months adding 2 more.
Correct.
So, and the other thing that I think is important, what is the structure of how that will help? You really need the 4 to have the structure you need.
Right.
But I think what's important too is if the budget, the overtime's reduced to half. Because if I'm understanding, you've got to have time to send them to classes, to train and stuff. So I think that's probably what's leaving you too thin, part of what's leaving you thin.
Yeah.
And then it also is your employee, part-time employee salaries are going down the next month. So I see where this supports the 4.
Right.
It's time.
It is, yeah, we're trying to, and I talked with our manager know about that as well, that we adjust those because it will help on, mandated callback and things like that. I mean, about a couple months ago, we had 2 officers on the same night shift, both of them got pretty ill and had to call out. So I mean, we had to rustle around and get some people to come in. Of course, we cover shifts as well. We're not immune to that at all. And, but it will help us with that because a lot of our overtime, sometimes people will think that it's like a slush fund and we're just out making this wild money, but we're mandated to get firearms range. We go 4 times a year now. Some days when I first came on, we went 1 time a year, but when we're working on accreditation and mandates, we go 4 times a year because that's the most critical thing that we would ever have to do is to address someone with firearms. We want to make sure we're efficient there. Also, hours spent in the courtroom, we have to go for that. And there's a lot of things mandated training that overtime accounts for too, but that would definitely help reduce some of that cost. Jason.
Alderman, also, just to put a dollar value on the stagger, the 2 in July, 2 in January, it's about $125,000 cost savings, depending on what level the officer that's hired, what their certifications are, and what their starting pay will be. So that's the cost savings there.
That's a savings from the number we have here.
No, if we were to start for July 1, it would be an additional $125,000, and that factors in total compensation, vehicles, uniforms, gear, things like that.
So for a full year, we're actually looking at another 50% more than what is budgeted for the additional officers right now.
No, what's in here is for 2 in July, 2 in January.
Correct, but for the following year.
Correct, yeah, we would have the full cost.
Full cost, so it would be an additional 50%.
Correct.
So realistically, with new positions, you typically don't budget them for 12 months in the initial year. You're gonna have to advertise, interview. So is that something that can be adjusted slightly where we fund them, 2 of them for 11 months or 10 months?
It's so hard to recruit people. I think.
Yes.
I'm just saying you can't start on July 1.
No, that's right. By the time we would onboard them, by the time we would onboard them, they go through the FTO and they do all that, it's gonna stagger out anyway.
Yeah.
Right, so the budget is built based on the assumption of a July 1, January 1 start date. So like Alderman Mosteller just said, it would essentially be a savings on that full-time line. It wouldn't exceed it based on that pay. It would just roll back in the fund balance, the appropriation. But it's best to go ahead and appropriate it as if they would start July 1.
Yes, but the
I would-
board needs to look at it as the full picture for the following year, not
Correct.
just the.
Correct. So the following year, we need to, we don't need to have a rate hike simply because we did this year.
I can just tell you what I did in North Carolina Division of Prisons. Start up, you fund them for 10 months, next year you annualize it.
Mhm.
And there's some savings first year.
Right.
I understand cities must fund it for the full year and it's gonna go to fund balance for next year, but I'm just saying this.
Well, that's how all, if you look at most of the departments, the salaries, we spend less than what we budget because there's attrition, there's all kinds of things going on there, so.
Right, I just wanted to make sure we
But by
understood.
budgeting,
Oh, yeah.
it requires more.
But,
By budgeting a full 12 months, it may impact the tax rate.
oh,
Well, we're gonna have to do it this year or next year.
Well, next year, hopefully we'll have more revenues from more houses that are closed. And
well, it's not that much of a revenue shift if you look at the numbers that we give it for next year.
I'm just saying, just different ways of budgeting.
So, anyway.
So for, bicycle patrols, let's just say, for example, we've got somebody out downtown on bicycles. They get a phone call and we've got to get out to River Mess to back somebody up. They've got to then ride their bicycle over to wherever their car is.
Right.
And so as much as we all feel warm and fuzzy for seeing somebody on a bike, at the end of the day, it might not make a whole lot of sense to have somebody riding around on a bicycle.
Well, we dealt with that Aldermen County early on, and that's exactly what's happened, because we just had the two, and they would get on the bike at the downtown fire substation, park their car, and it would happen, they'd get out, and a call would go out, and one officer was okay, but then the other one had to go. So what we would do with that is we would swing the shift or something. We also have, an officer, our detective, for example, he could go get on the bike, and there's different ones that could do that, so we wouldn't pull away from patrol duties.
But that's, I mean, that would be a scheduled function.
But you're right, I mean, that's a good one to bring out, because that's a lot of pedaling. Even if it was an e-bike, I mean, they still, that's a lot of pedaling.
And they would be designated for the downtown for that duration.
Yeah.
So it's usually not gonna be a typical 8-12 hour day.
Right, but as you're saying, we sometimes have situations where we need backup with a
Right.
place.
Yes, ma'am.
And if we're looking at a 6-minute response time for that second section already,
Right.
if they're waiting for backup, and somebody's on bike, we're
Yes,
having
They're flagging
potentially.
down, you can, yeah, right, yes, ma'am.
And then if we do look at bicycles again, there's a new bike shop going on around Andy. I'd love to talk to them and see if they want to do.
We've used them before, but yes,
Okay, that's what, that's who we talked to, yes, ma'am.
And then how many of the calls are just checking on someone for somebody? Are we
So-
seeing a lot of that?
Well, we have, so the calls are, when you look at them, there's self-initiated, there's dispatch. So a self-initiated call could be a welfare check, it could be them stopping the car, it could be them checking on, anything, like we had a welfare check, look like we came here on a gentleman, so they're all broken down into those factors, so, yeah,
So typically a welfare check would be one officer that goes
yes, ma'am.
for that, and then I think that one ended up with several more there.
Yeah, when the officer got there due to the circumstances, it elevated the call and requested backup. So then we, of course, medical was responding to, so, and that's the nature of what we deal with. Sometimes something seems like it's nothing, and then it certainly will elevate. So, anytime you see like a multiple response with officer, definitely that's a higher priority. That's why sometimes y'all get email from me. We have like, for example, we had something at one of the hotels that day, and we had several people there for several hours. I let y'all know, because I know your phone probably rings, what's all the police up there for.
And we appreciate that because you're absolutely right.
Yes, ma'am.
Get a lot of questions for
Yeah.
things like that. And then if we're looking at additional officers right now, does that mean additional vehicles as well? Are we sharing vehicles?
That's
Everybody
included in
takes
the
their
budget.
own?
The budget includes, yes, so this has, the cost of, new leases for the 2 officers to start July, and then, the discount or, half rate for what we would expect that lease to be for January officers. So that is already built into the budget you see.
So we've got 4 additional vehicles as well.
I know some folks asked about like the call volume between 22 and 25, 26. But in 2023, we had 7,289. In 2024, it actually increased a pretty good bit, 13,571. I don't know what caused that jump. I don't know if people were coming out of the COVID spell and, vacation more, and then it went down to 12,136. To date, well, actually January through May, we've already had 6,728 calls for service. So I mean, it kind of just shows, but we're not asking for a long, you guys know that. It's a need, but we actually just need to get caught up with today's time. We've got subdivisions growing and growing. Obviously, we are the popular downtown of Brunswick County, so we just need to get ahead.
As far as the sheriff's department backup for coming here, I heard you say that the sheriff's department is also having trouble getting enough officers. But we are paying for the sheriff's department also as taxpayers in Southport. So the expectation is if we need them to back us up, they would come, correct?
Yeah, we've got if we request an additional unit, normally they dispatch the county. The county's got a car that's assigned to this outer area of Southport, and they're routinely in and out patrolling. I mean, they're boats and stuff, patrol our waterway district and stuff like that. But they do come and we need assistance. They'll come help us. So does Oak Island. Oak Island involved, the difference, Boiling Spring Lakes and Oak Island PD. So it's us, Boiling Spring Lakes, Oak Island, Baldwin Island, and we all share the same radio channel. The sheriff's office on another channel, but so if we get out on a call like this one a few minutes ago and they ask for another unit, of course, we're gonna come and, but they'll dispatch the county, so they help us anytime we need them to. Yeah.
So the county, so 911 still goes to the county and then they
Yes.
dispatch to Southport. And then if Southport needs more, the 911 center then dispatches the sheriff's deputy to come out.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Like Boiling Spring, like, yeah, different ones here, but they routinely come, so, yeah.
And the same affects them, if they can't get to a call, then
And of course,
they'll ask for actions.
just like the 4th of July, for example, is coming up, we just had a meeting yesterday, so we'll have anywhere from 160 to 180, some plus law enforcement agencies helping, or law enforcement officers, let me back that up, helping. The sheriff's office contributes a lot to that, you'll see a lot of their presence here. All the 14 police departments, we reach out to them and they send folks to help. We got some reaching out as far as lumbers and PDs, but just ask them if we need help and stuff like that, so there's a lot of networking, so,
I mean, I know that people come in from everywhere.
It is.
When I try and get through that barricade, they message you and they go,
Oh, Lord, yeah, it'll be a time, so we're gearing up for it. I know we'll have a large crowd, so, we're gonna try to prepare for it as best we can, so.
Are your shifts 8 hours or 12-hour shifts?
They're 12 hours, so, yes, sir.
So just for the general knowledge of the public, 4 positions sounds like a lot. When you budget for a post, to budget for that post 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you're covering sick leave, vacation, holidays, calculations that have been used in the state government require you to hire 5.2 people to cover one post.
Right.
So if I had a post at a prison and I needed that post manned 24/7, 365 days a week, it takes 5.2 positions. And that's what the state legislature budget office was. So when you look at 4 positions, you're really getting less than 1 person per shift,
Right.
a little bit less. So I just share that for
No, I
information.
appreciate that. Sometimes I leaned on you a little bit as well when you were out, explaining some stuff to me as well. So, yeah, I appreciate that.
4 positions is less than a post per
Gotcha.
shift.
So ultimately, we talk about this. Well, you know, I got speeding ticket, right?
Sure. Yes, I did.
And I was not happy.
I, yeah. And,
And did you get me out of that speeding ticket?
no, sir.
You sure didn't. And what happened? What did I do?
So you hang up like you should have.
I went and got in line and I went through the system and I paid for that ticket.
Yes.
I wasn't happy.
Right.
All right. So come home mad about it, thinking about it and starting to say, why are we out doing traffic stops here and doing this and doing that? And I've hit you up with my question. Why do we pay in the municipal level for mandates from the state level? They're unfunded mandates. Any law that the state makes, you now have to follow through with, right? You're obligated, you're taking.
And our oath is to the Constitution and the laws of the state of North Carolina, ordinances and all that, so yes.
And we're the oath in the South Carolina, this today on the state of North Carolina. Your obligation is to do those laws. Y'all enforce unjust laws? It's a trick question. Yes, you do.
Absolutely.
Yes, you do. Because one state might have a law this way and one state,
That's right.
and how are we gonna decide what's right and what's wrong? All you can do is follow what they tell you.
Yeah.
You don't do that type of thing. So no matter what, as we grow, as we have people coming to town, the more people that come, the more you're gonna have to enforce those laws, right?
Yeah.
And so our
That's
policy,
I call it, I guess, yes, sir.
we could prevent having to buy these officers if our policies didn't allow for such dynamic traffic coming in and out of town. Would you sort of agree with that if we?
Well, I know you've mentioned several times about the gate, but unfortunately we're past that now. And I'll be honest with you, my eyes was dramatically open when the bridges collapsed. I mean, with the traffic, it was, I had a gentleman stop me yesterday. I was walking out of the police department and where we're at now, at 9:45, traffic is backed up past Walmart coming into town. And then this is, I mean, if I had $1 or a quarter for every time somebody said, gee, where are all these people? I mean, and we see it, and then the numbers just overwhelm us. And it's the whole city, it's all the infrastructure, the demands we're having to do to, and I know we joke about it, we say, but we really are we are Brunswick County's downtown. I mean, people, there was a man stopping the other day, and he was from, where did he say he was from? Oklahoma or somewhere. He saw a movie, and he said they've been here ever since, and they loved it, and they did it. But yeah, I mean, that's just where we're at now. So.
We have started seeing, maybe Bruce will speak to this, we talked about, we are starting to see some revenues from the state for state issued tickets, right? We're getting those checks from the Brunswick County Clerk of Court now. When those fines are paid, we are receiving revenues for those now.
So the only way we'll ever shrink is to slow our policies down. And from what I've been seeing, yesterday, we had, our public relations and all our forward-facing entities.
Right.
And the policies that we have in those entities affect you. Today is meat and bones, the requirements, the things that we absolutely have to have. We have our policies over here that we're gonna entertain the outside, we're gonna have 12 festivals a year, we're gonna have everybody come. We're never gonna cut your budget with that kind of policy.
Right, and I did mention, I have mentioned before, because I think this, maybe one of y'all mentioned about how we police these events and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We do have the ODM, the off-duty management, so that they, you know, for people that want to contract an officer off duty to kind of compensate that, if you will, but that's never been enforced by, I think the board has to make a decision, like, we have so many requests come across to approve, or like the car shows downtown, where we close off all the roads and stuff. So, I mean, that's something that you guys will have to really look at and see how you want to address that.
The only way we're gonna cut budgets is to change the way we act and live.
Right.
It won't change if we keep doing the same thing.
That is, he made a good point, that would be a good start, is the, any, non-city sponsored event, if we could somehow mandate, other people to pay for the off-duty management, to pay for law enforcement.
How much is the off-duty officer get?
With the vehicles, it's about 47, I believe.
And we only retain the vehicle.
That's correct.
Yeah, we only receive the revenues for the vehicle usage because it's a city-owned vehicle. The officer gets paid directly outside of South.
And that saves on our overtime. Some of these events we have to, you know, require overtime.
How's that broken down, 47, like?
It's 45, I think it's like 45 for the officers, and then $2.50 or something for the vehicle use per hour.
No, it's one, you talk about the vehicles at $22.
Oh, yeah, that's the second one. Okay, the $2.50 is for actually the what ODM is gonna pay for the transaction.
Okay, you're right. And with gas prices, I think we're getting our money back for those vehicles.
Well, luckily, a lot of these events they're out on foot anyway, so they're not really using the vehicle, it's just for the vehicle to be there, but the churches already paid, the churches have been on board with this from the day it started.
You're not policing the locals. Well, sometimes you get me, but I
Oh, we do.
mean.
You're not the only phone call, and that's the nature of what we do, because, and you have been an alderman that has said, they're just like I-95 and FOGO, for example, because I know, and then we get out there and enforce it, and then I got some terrible calls from some other folks. I had a gentleman the other night that called me out and wanted demanding that time. So, and then told the officer that exact thing, but it's just the nature of what we do, Mark.
I was a good boy, but
It's tough.
I kept my mouth shut.
Yes.
If it makes you feel any better, Mark, I got stopped for seatbelt concern on my golf cart, but just got a little lecture.
Again,
And let me-
it's a state
Yeah.
regulation.
It
That's what they're obligated to do. We pay
Right.
for them to fulfill the unfunded mandate of the state.
But since we're talking, yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna take a minute and brag, because I don't brag enough, I should on the officer, but yeah, that's what we do. But I did have somebody sent me an email and said they thanked this officer, said that was the most pleasant traffic stop they had ever been on. The officer was so nice.
That's good.
They said when the
That's
blue
good.
lights came on, they froze up, they felt like they were having a heart attack. They said the officer was so nice, friendly,
Yeah.
that they were taken away, and they said, I hope that any other traffic stop will be like that. And then I did get a letter the other day. We have elderly folks who call every day. It's a program my dad started. We call them, to check on them. And, when Miss Allison called her, she said, "You don't feel too well." She said, "Well, I'm not feeling too good, but I'm okay." Well, Nolan was working that day. We went by to check on her and ended up taking her to the hospital. And the chief sent a letter saying that we have saved her life because apparently she was having a medical situation that she did not even realize. But she sent a letter and she sent another one. But I mean, just to take a minute to brag, I mean, our officers are doing a great job. They are connected with our community. So the unfortunate traffic stops and things are the downside of what we do. And I joke, I know the fire chief, I think, just came in behind me, but some people are praised and all that. Nothing against that, because I'm in the fire department, but law enforcement, we don't, it's unfortunate. It's just what we do. But I do have a quite amount of thank yous and stuff. So just to let you know, we are doing a very good job. I feel like, I know that's nice for me, but
I'm glad you didn't get me out of the ticket. I
yeah.
can brag about it. And I'm glad I got the seatbelt warning, because I always wear my seatbelt.
Well, we're doing the enforcement on our golf carts right now. We did have a vehicle, a golf cart that was overturned, taking the turn too fast. And so we're seeing some increase. We're also seeing some increase. We've had 2 very serious accidents in Southport by e-bikes. We had a 16-year-old that was always had to be life flighted. It was hit a car. We had another gentleman that was severely damaged or broken up. So we're looking at that. I've had some citizens asking about that. So we're looking at the regulations and how there's not a lot of, right now, I think they're looking at ways to regulate that, but so we're looking at that. So, and to get on that program, Alderman Carey, you just call the office. We have it's called the We Care program. Nationally, it's known now as the RU OK program, but it's like a computer aided, but we're fortunate that we have Miss Allison calls them every day. They pick the time they want to be called. Some want to be called about 8:30 or so when she gets in, a couple around 10. So the officer goes, they fill out the form, it's online on our website, and we will call you every day to check to make sure you're all right. If you don't answer the phone, we'll set the call, we send somebody to the house. And that's been very beneficial.
That's awesome.
But this lady, she was just amazed. She didn't realize she was experiencing something, and she was just very proud of the efforts by Miss Allison.
I will say that having the same person call while having a real person, they you
Yes.
get to know the person's voice, and if they
And
sound off.
right, and that's what it was with Miss Allison. She don't feel right, and so she sent Nolan, and I didn't realize we had another young lady. She's passed away recently, and the officers were going by taking her breakfast and helping her at the house. I didn't realize that was happening until her family called and told me that. I mean, they built a relationship with the folks, and it's more than just Miss Allison calling. They're more than stopping by and checking on them. So
I'll fund that all day long.
yeah.
I'll fund that all day long.
And it's
already
going
fine.
around, you know, that's, I just think, look, I don't bring out.
It's a big cost.
I mean,
It's already there.
it's again, it's south, so it's part of the fabric,
Yeah.
when you talk about that quality of life, so the smaller things that we can do like that, the personal touches. Mark, let's come in.
We can have calls to Alderman Spencer, tell him to slow down. Alderman Gross, remind him to put on his seatbelt. There we go.
And then we are not above the law.
Right.
No.
Nice, yeah.
All right, well, thank y'all.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
You got it, thank you, Carl. Y'all need to call down.
You got it.
I will call you.
Yeah.
I did.
Well, I did, I got one last thing, I said, different people talking about stuff, so that's what we did. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, why don't we take like a 5-minute break?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I got it.
Yeah.
How do you like my y'all support unjust? I need to be on the Senate subcommittee.
You're good.
All right, we had a very pleasant break, and we're back, and our next will be fire EMS, and that's on page 46. For those following on the agenda. So, welcome, chiefs. Chief Reddick, thank you.
Thank you to the mayor and aldermen, for the opportunity to speak today concerning the 2026, 2027 fiscal year budget. We are in the process currently to balance the deficit in the presented fire budget within the next week. The new fire fee legislation is being attached to a local bill and the Senate within the next week. It should be ratified with no issues, of what Senator Raven and Representatives Miller and Howard told me. This will allow our local fire fee committee to raise the fire fee this year by 25% to help with the deficit in the budget, which will be a great benefit, so we don't have to use ad valorem tax to balance the fire budget. So what does a 25% increase look like to our citizens? If you live in a 1,000 square foot house, you're currently paying around $100 a year for fire fee. A 25% increase, your new fire fee would be $125 annually. That equals to 34 cents per day for fire protection. I always like to also utilize the other end of the spectrum, and utilize my residence, which is over 3,000 square feet. My fire fee currently is $600 a year that I pay. With the increase, I would pay $750 annually, which is $2.05 a day, about the price of a candy bar for fire protection. This increase would be for the entire district, not only the city, but also our county district and our Castle Beach district. This would be the first increase in the fire fee that we have had in 7 years. 2019 was the last increase that we had. The Brunswick County Board of Commissioners is currently working to establish a new committee to come up with a plan for a new funding mechanism for fire departments. Me, as the president of the Fire Chiefs Association, have recommended to the commissioners to come up with this committee. We're going to work on funding mechanisms, contract agreements, and also a capital purchasing fund from the county to assist departments that have county jurisdictions, like with the 4 square miles in the city of Southport, but our county jurisdiction is about 30 square miles. So we have a very large county jurisdiction. So we're working on a plan to try to split capital purchases to help. The majority of fire departments in Brunswick County are struggling with debt payments and capital expenses, and that has been an issue within our own budget. Personnel costs have not really changed much in the last 2 or 3 years in our budget. Operating costs have not changed very much. But the challenge we're experiencing is apparatus and equipment. Apparatus replacement is one of the major challenges nationwide. When ordering an engine or a piece of fire equipment, there's a 3 to 4 year wait. And prices have doubled since 2020. In 2018, we purchased a fire truck for $417,000. The same exact fire truck today is $1.2 million with a 4-year wait. So several challenges we continue to face in emergency services. Volunteers are decreasing rapidly. Supply, demand, and cost issues are plaguing our equipment, our safety, our gear, and our apparatus. I do want to mention this. 2.5 years ago, the city spent quite a bit of money to do a pay classification and a salary study. The department heads took training with personnel, human resource matters, including how the scale worked to continue in the pay plan. Cost of living adjustments and merits were instituted through performance evaluation processes. And there's been a lot of rhetoric and a lot of criticism about department heads and giving merits just across the board. I can only speak for fire and EMS departments, but we do not just willy-nilly give out merit increases across the board. That is not true or factual. We have an approved process that's graded in several categories depending on the position of the employee. And if your employee is up for an evaluation and they've received any disciplinary action within the last 12 months, they do not receive a merit increase. So many of our merit increases vary, just like performance evaluations should. And I bring this up because I've had several employees contact me since the budget's been presented about the merit being taken away from the budget. And if I feel as if we move forward with what's presented, we're going to lose employees, which we were 2.5 years ago drastically. We had a revolving door of employees leaving. And it will not just be first responders. It's going to be others. You know, we want to talk about transparency. The city spends hundreds of thousands of dollars on studies, and then we get new administration, we get new aldermen, we have an election, and then they just take that study and put it on the shelf and do away with it. And they don't have any focus to move forward with what has already been in plan, what has been a priority. So when former administrations were in place, the department heads met and talked, and one of our major problems was retention of employees. I was losing employees to Sunny Point Fire Department, to Oak Island Fire Department, to Leland Fire Department. Everybody's talking about Southport has this Cadillac plan of benefits, but benefits vary from municipality to municipality, and I've had people leave us to get spousal coverage because Leland was offering it, Oak Island was offering it, and we were not offering it. So anytime there's a change in benefits, I understand being conservative with budgeting. I understand all of that, but we've got to look at the retention problem that is not just happening here in Southport. It is a nationwide problem in emergency services of trying to recruit people. Which greatly affects everything in our department. I do want to touch on this, and I'll take questions. Southport Fire Department fire fees can only be used for fire services. Over $2 million Southport Fire Department collects annually on fire fees, and we're the only department within the city that has that kind of revenue. The city manager did put out a budget survey. I read the budget survey. As soon as it was sent to me, I read it thoroughly. I read it through again, and then I read it again last night. Some very good information in that budget survey. Top 3 improvements that you'd like to see in the city in the next 5 years. Public safety was 21% of that budget survey. What city services do you use? 21 responses said that fire and EMS and public safety was something that they used. Budget priorities, public safety funding, 16%, 36 responses was public safety funding. Which city services should receive the highest funding upcoming budget year? 70 residents that participated in the budget survey said 45% of the budget survey, 70 residents chose fire and EMS. So there's a vast number of citizens out there that do support the fire and EMS program that we have. I've been on the fire department for 35 years. 3 times in my 35 years, I saw the city attempt to eliminate EMS services. 3 times. I went through that with Mayor Holden. I went through it with Mayor Spencer, and I went through it with Mayor Howard. 3 times. And y'all think this HPC has caused a problem with red church signs. I thought they were gonna burn the city hall down. 3 times they talked about cutting EMS and giving it over to the county in my 35-year tenure. They were very contentious meetings. I'm being very transparent with y'all today because we have taken a beating on social media. Now, this is just my personal opinion. Social media is going to ruin our country. It is in the process of ruining everything. Southport is just not like it used to be. We take a big, I went through and purged my social media because it was affecting me to where I couldn't sleep. I had physical ailments. So I purged my social media to get off of that stuff. And I've told the firemen, don't come to me and tell me about it if you're on it. It has had a direct effect on morale at the fire department. When we have elected officials that get on social media and bash city departments, that is a very bad morale issue that we're facing with our firefighters and our first responders in this city. I'll answer anybody's questions. I'm very open book. I'll sit down and talk with anybody about any question that they have. Would love to, but I refuse anymore. And thank you to the city manager for calling me in and talking to me. I'm not going to be debating anybody on social media about fire or EMS from this point forward. And I apologize and I am sorry for getting involved in stuff like that in the past, because I want to stand on being a professional in this field, because this is life and safety. This is public safety, and we're dealing with people's lives here. I'm being very transparent with my message with you today, because when I came to the Board of Aldermen 4 years ago, and I brought to you an EMS plan that was a paramedic program, it was justified after 6 hours of standing in budget hearings and debates. The answer that I'm giving you probably today is not a politically correct answer, but I just want you to understand, I speak on what is the best service for the citizens of Southport. That's my concern. I have to tell you what I feel like is the best service for the citizens of Southport. When Mayor Howard and the Board of Aldermen appointed me to the office of fire chief, I took an oath to protect the citizens of Southport. I don't take that lightly. I listen to constructive criticism, and I want to be fair in my budgeting and my proposals. If I had data that supported Brunswick County EMS responding to Southport in less than 4 minutes, I would bring to you a proposal to recommend that Brunswick County EMS took over EMS. I want y'all to know EMS is one of my biggest headaches. That has been my biggest headache since I've been fire chief. Chief Redway would admit to that. We would love to do it with EMS, but it is not the best service for the citizens of Southport. That's why we do it. I did not want to go get my EMT when I became fire chief, but I went and I got it. And I have to put up with Con Ed every single month because of it, and I don't like it, but I have to do that because it's the best service for Southport. I'm very cautious of what I say. The county has a great system, but it's a very stressed system. The county system is, and I have some figures here, March of this year, 25 times they shut ambulances down in our immediate area because they did not have staff. April 2026, they shut down 28 12-hour shifts from staffing ambulances in our immediate area. May of 2026, 13 times they shut down ambulances from over 12-hour shifts, 13 different times because they didn't have staffing. Today is June the 5th. On June the 2nd, Medic 5 did not staff an ambulance, which Medic 5, when I say Medic 5 is Boiling Springs. From midnight to 6 a.m. in the morning on June the 2nd, they did not have an ambulance in Boiling Springs. On June the 3rd, Medic 7, Long Beach Road ambulance was shut down from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. They did not have an ambulance. On June the 4th, Medic 5 in Bowling Spring Lakes again was shut down from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Tomorrow, Medic 10 and Medic 13 will be shut down both during the day. So not only do we run an effective life-saving EMS program that responds, and our average response time is 4 minutes, all 9 full-time EMS personnel are also firefighters. They're hazmat technicians and they're technical rescue certified. They assist at fires. You do not receive that if you have a county ambulance. If we had a county ambulance staged, Southport Fire Department, and we done away with our EMS program, we would not get that service from those individuals that are employees of the county. They would not be able to help us during a structure fire. They would not be able to help us during a hazardous material situation or a technical rescue problem. Our EMS personnel are here for every festival, special function, lift assist, non-emergency transports that they do in between emergency transports. They assist with fire prevention, daily duties, hurricane evacuation. I'd like to talk just a few minutes about our fire marshal's office as well, because I understand that that's come under a lot of scrutiny. Our fire marshal's office also is trained for more than just a fire inspection. They do more than fire inspections. They do our pre-fire plans for our insurance inspections that have to be done annually. If we turned over fire inspections to the building inspections office or fire inspections to the county, we would not get that service. They would not do our fire plans. They would only do fire inspections. They would not do our backup firefighters on our trucks. They would not help us on ambulance calls when we have several medical calls. And folks, I'm gonna be honest with you, there are several times that we have 3 and 4 medical emergencies going on in the city limits of Southport at one time, that we have to disperse multiple units to try to answer all of those calls. Our fire marshal's office reviews fire system engineering drawings. They review subdivision plans, new developments, placement of fire hydrants. They attend technical review committees with planning. They teach all of our fire education. They back up our fire trucks and our ambulances. I want to give you a brief example of a normal day in the life of Southport Fire Department. You just heard a tone go out while we've been sitting here. That means that somebody has called 911 and said, we need help, we have an emergency. At times there are multiple calls like that, and I'm going to give you a call last two months ago. We had a stroke patient in the city limits of Southport. Our ambulance was treating the stroke patient. It was imperative that we get them to New Hanover Hospital within an hour. They did do that, but in the transport of taking them to New Hanover, we had a lady that fell from the top deck of the community building, fell down the stairs, had massive head trauma to her face, and our ambulance was gone. Guess where the closest paramedic unit with the county? Our closest unit was Ocean Isle Beach, North Carolina. 28 minutes on a good day, if there's not traffic, to 11. So what did we do? We reorganized, and Battalion Chief Treadway is so good at this. We sent a fire truck. We took our fire clerk out of our office, put her on the secondary ambulance. We took a paramedic off of one of the fire trucks, put him on the secondary ambulance. Our fire marshal was there treating the patient and helping, and we put that patient on the ambulance, and then there was a second ambulance en route to the ambulance because Dozier would not take her because of the trauma that she had. That is a normal day of what it looks like. We have moving parts from our fire marshal's office, our EMS department. They're separate budgets, but they work cohesively and collaboratively together. In our recent inspection with ISO, all 9 of those EMS members that are on the ambulance, they got to be counted in our insurance inspection as full-time employees that are there ready to fight a structure fire if the times go out. You know, we've had a lot of criticism about we've got too many employees, we've got too much. We do not even meet the minimum standards of NFPA 1710, which is a national standard of 4 firefighters per engine. We're not even meeting that with the people that we have because we cover 24-hour shifts. So that just gives you an example of how our system works. I've looked at fire departments in our county, in our state, that are cohesive to what we have as far as district-wise, municipalities we're covering. I kind of put us into play at Calabash. Calabash has 19 full-time people. Tri-Beach has 18 full-time people. Those are some departments that are kind of similar to Southport and what we're doing. We have 17 full-time firefighters and 9 full-time EMS people that are covering our shifts. So with all of that being said, I will be glad to entertain any questions that you may have for me.
Any questions for Chief?
Just a statement. Yes, sir.
30 miles, square miles of service area. Southport's only 4. And South Pleasant math, that's like 8 or 9, well, you know, 1/9 of the whole district is actually Southport. That's your task, is handling all that territory from a Southport location. When you say Bowling Springs didn't have an ambulance, does Bowling Springs have a private ambulance or any other service of that nature? So the people of Bowling Springs were basically left hanging high and dry, and if somebody would have an accident, it'd have been a long time.
In the county system, the way it works, they have bases, but those ambulances are not necessarily assigned to those bases. So if we had an ambulance at Southport Fire Department from the county, that does not mean it would be dedicated to Southport. They move constantly. I mean, if you listen to the county EMS channel, you will hear Medic 100 constantly moving ambulances through the county. When there is a concentration of calls in Holden Beach and people are deployed there with ambulances, then they try to cover other areas and they spread them out. So the ambulances are constantly moving around from their bases.
The county running this system is not something we'll have anytime soon. Being able to afford to do all of this. No matter how much money they're getting, it doesn't seem like they can keep up with the demand.
They have a very, very stressed system. I appreciate the county and what they do. But I'm honest with you. I just have never been very impressed by county services. I mean, that's why you live in a city. If you don't want better services, you live in a county jurisdiction. I mean, that's the way it is all over the state of North Carolina. If you want better services, you can move inside a municipality. You can live in a city. You get faster police protection. You get faster fire, faster EMS. I mean, that's the way it is everywhere.
How old is your fire department?
Well, it was formed organized originally in 1893. And when the Model T was put into service in the 20s, it ran to fire calls and shunt.
Because
we were the first fire department. Nobody else had a fire department in the county.
we're still paying for our conversion from county to, from Southport being the county seat. We're left over with all the remnants of all these habits that we've had for 100 years. They just 10 years, 100 years of being responsible. And now we've got to spread the responsibility. It's hard to give it away. Y'all take this.
One thing that you have to realize, even though we have 30 square miles outside the city limits, those people are contributing.
Yeah.
They're partners with us. They don't pay for that fire station. They don't pay for fire trucks. Since 1998, they have paid fire fees. And they consistently pay fire fees.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the city of Southport owns the building, owns the trucks, owns the whole department. But the county has a vested right in that department because they pay. They help fund.
So the, fire fee adjustment that could potentially come, from the city. The fire fee committee would have to then convene again before that could have any movement.
Yes, our meeting is next Thursday.
Do we anticipate the state legislature having already moved through that prior to that meeting?
We'll see. The intention would be of the committee to make a motion to keep the rates as they are currently and then have a contingent in that motion to raise it immediately to the 25 cents should that pass. So in the back end, the committee will move irrespective of what the state does, and it will be retroactive to what the state does.
Okay, and then when does the new fire fee come into effect? If it is approved by the state
July.
legislature, it would be for the
July.
July budget.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so have we built in that contingency to our budget if that?
We have not what you
But
see.
it's only five, I think we're only talking like $500,000 to $600,000.
Right, so what you see in this budget is fire fees today. That's why in my presentation, I have the 700,000 as contingent for fund balance to pay for debt service should that for some reason not pass, and we have that covered.
Chief Drew had given me a proposal originally, it was about $600,000 or so increase based on the estimates from the county.
And one thing that I would like to bring up that Chief Treadway and Joe talked about, and we've had a little bit of issue with some insurance. And that is a potential savings in the fire budget. Joey has talked with the.
Correct. So currently, the fire department and rescue department have BFIS for insurance outside of the league. I think it was originally the league, the way their liability pool was structured for fire apparatus, it was much costlier. BFIS is specific for fire and EMS apparatus. The league has actually changed their liability pool in recent years. I've talked to other municipalities in town. It's a very comparable policy. I've had the chiefs review it. And there's potential cost savings about $73,000 by switching to the league pool. They're still reviewing some comparisons to make sure that it's adequate coverage and it could cover everything BFIS does, but that would greatly benefit us.
And then, we spoke last year, before it all kind of goes together now, about the ambulances, and when the county has a need, they reallocate our ambulance as well. Is that still something that happens?
We changed the contract on that.
I remember there was something where
Yes.
we would position
So,
closer,
right,
I think it was
and
the Tiger Mart, I feel like was the
yes,
furthest
yes,
out we would position.
we changed the contract on that, and since we've changed the contract, we have not had any issues. We're not even being called much for standby at all from the county.
Okay.
So now we do run, some mutual aid.
Of course, I'm not,
Yeah, I had that in my report, I think that I gave the board, and there was a breakdown of it, of exactly what we do.
but we're not being called to go
No,
stand
no,
at,
We're not
as far
anymore,
as-
we've corrected that issue.
Okay, and then with the, upgrade to the, having the medications on the ambulances, I think that initially we thought that that was going to be a revenue producer for us to be able to charge more for that transport. Has that come to fruition?
Yes, we're able to charge more for paramedic transports, yes.
And then when we have to reshuffle to do the second ambulance, like we did that in that case that you shared, is that something that we see often, or is it like a one-off every 6 months? What are we actually seeing with that?
I mean, I can get you some numbers on how many times we have that,
It's not a whole lot, but we do make, I mean.
I just
Yeah.
was curious if that's something we're seeing 3 times a month
That's not
or.
at all.
Okay. And then when we have that many paramedic calls and we're reshuffling, do we still have enough firefighters available to go fight a structure
yes,
fire?
that's one thing we're not gonna ever get compromised with is getting our firefighters tied up on a medical call, because that's one time why a county department lost their ISO rating and went from a very low rating to a 10. And they were put on probation is because their firemen were tied up on medical calls and not able to respond to structure fires. So we make sure that we safeguard that, and we always try to keep somebody available to be able to respond.
And then I think someone brought up before, some of the call in and I can't get up calls. Is there a way to pull those out of the other calls? I mean, I don't, it sounds terrible, but I mean, I've had family members make those calls as well. Like those are legitimate calls that we get in Southport. Is that a full ambulance that needs to go out for that? Is that a secondary kind of vehicle?
Well,
What does that look like?
It just depends on how the call comes to us through 911. There's a tiered system. Omega is basically not an ambulance call at all. It's just a lift assist call, or the call to come out as an alpha level call, which means somebody's fallen, they could be hurt. So it just depends on how the call comes out to us. But normally, if it's a lift assist, if the ambulance is tied up, then we send the fire truck to help them get up. And if they're not hurt, then that's fine. And maybe just get somebody up out of the floor, put them in a chair,
And we're not sending a ladder truck for that, correct? Like that, I'm just,
Well,
the question has come.
we're not sending a ladder truck unless we're already out on a call and we're diverting someone to go and answer the call. I mean, if we're out on call and we have to divert somebody, it could possibly be a ladder truck, but no, not normally. That's not a normal response.
Thank you.
So Chief, well, thank you for what you and Ralph do and the rest of the fire EMS. So as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, Southport taxpayers are being double taxed for EMS services. We're paying towards the county, and we're also paying to operate our own because of all the things that you previously stated.
That's correct.
I believe the rescue budget this year is 1.5 million. It's anticipated to receive about 400,000 in revenues, which leaves the city taxpayers paying about 1.1 million in ad valorem taxes to continue to operate our own EMS system. Do you get a sense in your conversations with the county that they'd be willing to write us a check for 1.1 million so we could just drop this whole conversation and keep it ourselves?
I mean, we have sent, myself and the city manager, he worked on a letter. We have sent a letter to the county requesting some funding. The county did used to fund us some money yearly, annually for our response outside the city limits.
Well, that might be a cheaper option for them. So they don't have to provide our own service here. They just write us a check for 1.1 million, all will be good. We'll continue to operate our own service. But it is unfair to city taxpayers to be double taxed for EMS services. I just gotta state that for the record.
But that's not an uncommon thing across the entire state.
Yeah.
So we're not unique. Southport's not the only unfair place to live.
And former boards have also discouraged me from asking the county for funding for EMS because they said if they start funding us, then they're going to dictate to us where we go and what we do and where we stand by them. So former boards have told me not to pursue getting funding. So
I think conversation can never hurt. I don't think conversation can ever hurt.
As I said in the beginning, the partners, the hospital benefits, county benefits, and our citizens benefits. So all three should have a shared financial responsibility. And I think that's what way we work on that. And we're also funding the planning services for the county too. I mean, it's not just EMS. I mean, double taxation, on bidding services. And,
yes, sir.
but
I pay taxes for the sheriff's office. I don't use them.
Okay.
And I pay for the school system. My kids always went to private school. I don't use them.
so that's just part of living in America and having freedom and liberty.
Living in the municipality.
Yeah.
And I did take note that you're not asking for any additional fire positions this year. And, on behalf of the taxpayers, thank you for doing that. it didn't go unnoticed. And I wanted to say that. You mentioned earlier about the fire marshal's office, and that was probably in response to a question that I asked yesterday that was asked of me by a citizen. So I was following up to make sure that what the citizen was asking me was correct. And that was, do our building inspectors have a certification to help out with the commercial fire inspections? And according to Mr. Barefoot, one of our building inspectors, he said he could do level 1, but he could not do level 2 or level 3, which was certainly informative. And I guess this inquiry from the private citizen that spoke to me was actually correct. According to Mr. Barefoot, they're pretty well caught up. If he gets a request to do a inspection today, he'll have it done tomorrow. So it sounds like they do have some bandwidth in the building inspection department to help do fire inspections. And as you said, I'm sure they do other things in the fire marshal's office, but that's where that whole line of questioning came from yesterday. And
I help sometimes, I do inspections myself, because I'm level 3 inspector as well.
well, I hope you'll continue to have conversation with the county. They have a financial obligation to help this city out. And the way I look at it, as of today, they need to write us a check for $1.1 million. Because it is their legal financial responsibility to operate an effective EMS system that serves the citizens of Southport. And as an alderman and as a citizen, I would never vote to remove a EMS base station from Southport. The demographics that we have here, we need a base station in Southport. Now, whether or not the county operates it or the city operates it, I guess that's still up for debate.
What's best for the city is for it to be operated through the city for our citizens.
But I just moved my 98.5-year-old mother-in-law from independent living in Raleigh to the Liberty Rehab Center here. I think she's already fallen one time. She may have been called for that. But anyway, the services are obviously needed. The funding has got to be figured out. I'm frankly in support of the 25% fire fee increase to ensure equitable taxation, whatever you want to call it, from those outside our city limits. Southport residents are paying more for the fire services than those outside our city limits because we're capped at the fire fee. So I'm frankly supporting what the state legislature is doing, and hopefully our county committee will also pass that, because even though nobody likes to pay more for anything today, at least those folks living outside our city limits will be paying similar to those who live inside the city limits.
And that's what we're trying
For
to
their
do.
fire protection.
That's what we're trying to do too with the committee that we're going to have, is to discuss things going forward. We're trying to come up with an equitable funding mechanism, whether it's a tax, a fee, or what, that city residents and county residents pay the same exact.
We need an equitable, sustainable revenue source, which we currently do not have, obviously. So I do support that 25% increase.
Yes, sir.
And with EMS, Bald Head would like to get in on the county, giving them some of their EMS too, I bet. So, you know, we're not in it exclusively by ourselves as.
But it is a system that currently, the way it's being operated is not fair to the Southport taxpayers. So something's got to be done. County needs to work with us. And we deserve some resources from the county because we're paying taxes to them. Write us a check. Write us a check.
Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, Baldhead does receive a slight stipend from the county, right? Because they can't provide services on the island.
Right.
So all head receives some money, so does St. James. They receive some money for their EMS.
Sorry. Does St. James get reallocated with their EMS? Do they ever get?
Well, they have, I'm sure they have similar contract, same contract as we do, they could get, but St. James EMS, I don't think they have any full-time staff.
They're all private volunteers according to the finance director over there,
Yeah.
fire department as well.
So you're getting duplication of some, or duplicate, multiple duties out of an individual, like the fire marshal, being able to adapt over to EMT, firefighter. Gone are the days when our city employees were firemen as well. That's true. What's the problem there? Well, we still have a resolution on file that Bill Pro signed when he was the mayor, that any employee that is a city fireman can respond to fire calls during their work hours. But people have just retired, they've aged out, and at one time, I'll be honest with you, that's what carried the fire department, and we did not have to have full-time staff for 30 years. Yes, because they allowed city employees that were firemen to respond during the day at work. We do have professional firefighters that work in public works. I believe Steve O is retired professional firefighters from up in Philadelphia. Several of them would be great, if we could, there was some kind of incentive to do that duplicated service. No, it's probably a days gone by. But it seems like a very practical thing. You've got people on call in the city that can respond quickly. So I would like to see us try to work on that. We would be glad to have it.
So, I mean, they would get the volunteer incentive as the other volunteers do. I mean, if they want to sign up to be a volunteer, they would.
Even when they were on the clock? No. They would not get a stipend right on the clock. Okay.
I mean, you're not going to get there. I mean, they're 100% towards their job.
Yeah.
So, in theory, we could divert them for fire calls, but, who wants to do that is next to none.
It used to be all of them, but I think at one time we had 9 city employees that were on the fire department. And
Is there anything, recommendations for how we have the budget, or we?
okay, please.
Well, I think, we'll finish with them and then we can decide if you want to come back, have a break for lunch and come back for adjustments. Or if you want to go all the way through, or you want to come back on Monday for adjustments, or if your finance presented.
I have one more question for the chief. Chief, on your overtime line item, that's something that Noah and I have been talking about since January, not just the fire department, but the whole city. We had $341,000 for the overtime in FY 25. It looks like the fire department FY 25 overtime was 183,410. We're budgeting 144,880 some dollars, so roughly, 3940, roughly a 39,000 or 40,000 cut from 2025. What have you seen, or what have you done, or working with Noah to try to control overtime, which obviously can't be cut out entirely? You can't stop an emergency in the middle of it, but what strategies do you see as being helpful to cut your overtime?
Well, one challenge that we face is when firefighters are working 24-hour shifts, there is absolutely no way to get around overtime. When I started with full-time staff, my idea was to have 12-hour shifts. So we would not have to have so much overtime, but if we done that, then we had to have 4 shifts, so we would have to hire more employees. So the North Carolina League of Municipalities, and then at that time, Bruce Oakley was the city manager. We consulted, and it was the best shift for coverage to do 24-hour shifts for firefighters. So when you do 24-hour shifts, one pay period, they're going to have no overtime. And then the next pay period, they're gonna have 12 to 14 hours of overtime, and there's just absolutely no way around it. However, we have really stressed that, you know, we push our employees to make sure if they're doing training, they're on shift, but we will not pay them overtime to take classes or for training purposes. That's one thing. Now, one reason we were able to cut in this budget, the overtime expense, is because, over the last year, we did have several vacancies. And we're back at the full staff. That is going to bridge the gap of having to hold anybody over and having minimum staffing, so that's it, so.
Yeah, it's my understanding that during 1 week, you're actually under the federal law to have to pay overtime, but the next 2 weeks, you're over. And, so I know scheduling is a challenge, and there are some federal laws that allows for flexible schedules. And I know you and Noah have been looking at that. Anyway, thank you for continuing to stay focused on overtime. And as you said, you can't get rid of overtime. You can't stop an emergency in the middle of it. But not just the fire, but the whole city, we just need to be careful on our overtime. $341,000 for the overtime is a lot for a small city of 4,200 people in 2025.
Just to provide some context to that, that'll help. So I was going through doing payroll analysis and following their schedules, the 3 on, 4 off that they follow. Like Chief Drew said, firemen that may follow their schedule just the way it falls with their 3 shifts. There was a pay period with none. The next pay period had 16.25 regularly scheduled. They did not pick up any extra shifts. That is their regular schedule. The next pay period was 15. The one after that again was 0. So it does just naturally fall within their schedule.
You know, with an emergency, you know, at the hospital towards the end of my shift, if someone came in that I knew, or that I was in the middle of something that was critical, I didn't leave. I stayed over, and y'all would do the same thing. That's what you do.
And you have a transport and it comes in, you have a call comes in at 7:30. There is absolutely nothing you can do if you have a patient and you're transporting them. I mean, there's nothing you can do. $380,000 overtime. How much would the additional unit to fill that gap so you wouldn't have overtime, how much would that cost?
That's the city.
That's citywide, and I would have to do a comparison to that, so. Okay.
And, Chief, just my last comment is that I called 911 last week. Your crew came, they were marvelous, especially it was steady. Otherwise, I would have taken this and needed to go to Hanover, no problem, went up there and got great care from our local EMS. And it's just good to see a local group of men and women, you know them, they know you, you feel a part of the community. And this patient felt so good. They had a great outcome. So thank you for that. So, any other questions? Our chiefs? Thank you. Yeah.
Path forward, Rebecca had to unexpectedly leave. Do we want to try to convene on Monday for any adjustments? Okay, I'll check.
I haven't heard any adjustments to this process.
There has not been any that was correct on there. There might have some potential adjustments, I think we can put that in mind. And I'll also have, I know, part of my presentation, you had some concern around merit, which I expressed, I supported that concern. So we're gonna pull what other options would look like if you wanted to do different options on merit, so we'll have that as well.
What I wanted to understand is, like, the whole point of doing the evaluations and merit was to get incremental things. And if you're just talking about a $500 bonus, that's not the same kind of reward, merit system reward. So what does that, that mean? To say that our salaries stay, we're benefiting.
So the COLA will always keep the salary steady. Now, I'll say 2.7 is a little under where inflation is hovering around 3 at this point.
Yeah.
That's all the time changing day, but in the aggregate, it's around 2.75. But yes, we'll put it on that, look at what those adjustments.
Just like how you would implement that kind of a merit raise, that's what I could.
And you can do a bonus bell curve.
Well, I know, that's what I'm saying, I don't know what that, because the way it was presented was just.
Right, and in the past, it has been where a bell curve, we've always said it is what the board adopts as the percentage. So this current year we're in is 2, the prior year was 3. That is the max somebody could get if they exceeds expectations in every single category. Very often it does. It may not be a true bell curve in terms of disbursement, but you are going to have some employees that may receive higher than others because of their performance throughout the year. So that's more so for pool.
Does 9 on a Monday work?
Yeah.
Yes. All right, motion to adjourn. So moved. Thank y'all.